Alright, I'll look.
You have it on, you have it saved on your thing already? I have it right here.
Give it to Danny. We'll be having a cider on that day. Yeah, right.
Ganaraska. Yo.
I see the man having a nice cold little beer there. We're all talking.
Yo.
Yeah.
Ganaraska.
Some other guy named John, I think. What
GAN. ARASKA.
Men's group?
Forest Center.
Yeah. You got a nice pint.
Ganaraska.
This has said Coors Light. I don't drink Coors. Bro,
Ganaraska.
there was actually a beer in it. It was a clear glass.
Ganaraska Forest Center.
No Coors, no whatever. He's on the beer. I was like,
there's a lot more.
Chilling, having a nice. Yeah, no smoke. I know I'm not smoking. No, but you're on smoking too. No, as a cigar. Yeah, I had no smoke. No, you know what?
He's lumped. Louder. You're not hearing me.
What?
Louder. So he talks loud. So he talks loud.
Go ahead, brother.
Let's go, bro. You're running the show.
Go ahead.
Let's go.
Go. Wrong way, brother.
Forgot. It's been a while. Huh?
All right, Kibo, we're gonna have a word. You know, we already talked about this before with your boys.
Yeah, man, you're running the show, bro.
Allah, Father of the universe.
Allah, Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Peace.
Freedom.
And justice.
Allah, my protector.
Allah is my protector. My guide.
And my salvation.
By night.
And by day. Through the Holy Prophet.
Noble Juali. Islam. Islam wars. Prophet warns all Muslims, governors order to read proclamation at each meeting. I hereby inform all members. Oh, if you could do me a favor too, just write down, Remy, if you could just write down appellation on Kiba, write down in the voice so I could do up the writs after for the immunization.
That's sorry, can you put down who's attending in your let's see. Well, no, because they asked me to put names on the because we're getting sports passes.
Oh, so
they say either individually do it, or if you have the names of all the people, you give us the names. So if you want me to do it, I have no problem doing it. Just
if you have your funds today, I guess too, you could just give your funds in, and we'll just take care of it. We're done.
Very good. It's not a lighting bit. Very. I want to keep doing it. Oh, you see what I'm saying? You see this lady here? This is the kind of shit.
No, she probably thinks there's
looking inside.
Probably thinks the plants are for sale.
No, it's kind of where can I get should we need it down or up?
I just want to get some lighting, but you could close it down.
I just want to, just because I feel this shit sort of starts to. This stuff starts out. You have a light? Use a light. I need it. It's right there.
Prophet warns all Muslims, governors order to read proclamation at each meeting. Ready? I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical agitated speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the Prophet Noble Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the Prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Islam. To be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claimed that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me, so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I am calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Mobutu Ali. Islam. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, this is the instruction from your Prophet Mobutu Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I, Mobutu Ali, and that's why many hearts have been turned to stone. Many have eyes to see, but cannot see, ears to hear, but cannot hear, lest they would be confounded of their sins. These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but would sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace, your divine prophet, Mobutu Ali. Islam. So this is our second session since our little hiatus because of this madness going on. Last week, we had all the attendees just express what they've been dealing with and how it feels to be back in the temple after so long. So we can start anywhere. We'll just go around and just how you've been dealing with the whole stuff going on, and what's it like to be back? How does it feel to be back? And how much did you miss this spot?
I'm happy to be back. As I said, I tell the children that this is important to be around fellow like-minded individuals. As for the other stuff going on, it's not really affecting us too much. We're kind of like this anyway, the home bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever, we're just watching them do their thing. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back. Happy to be here. Just be good, but happy. With everything that's been going on, I see, I recognize the battle I have with myself in terms of not idling, having idle time on my hands. I know this is supposed to be time. It's the perfect opportunity for me to be able to work on myself with a little less distraction because we've got so much things on hold. They slow things down. So, dealing with it, I think that there's still more to come personally, that makes it inconveniencing. But this is the perfect time for myself to continue to separate from the colonial side of what's going on. Yeah, that's about it. I think this is a really good opportunity to really separate, to be autonomous or self-government.
Islam.
I'm obviously happy to be there.
You're like, well, I gotta tell you, I'm happy to be here too.
This whole COVID pandemic ordeal, I've been keeping busy, you know. Been telling others too, have been reaching out to me. You know, so I've been telling them in the past, you know, some stuff like this is coming to me. You know, I'm conscious more than talking about, right? So I've been, you know, it's exactly what Mother Nature like, right? Just been, you know, going out with Mother Nature wise. Ever since when COVID started, you know, it's all self-isolate, so self-isolate Mother Nature, right?
So you can go outside more.
Yeah. Well, you know, around Mother Nature, right? Around, you know, where the trees are and whatnot, right? What's home to you? So yeah, I've been keeping busy, working, you know, toiling, I call it, right? So yeah, I'm happy to be back, you know, connecting with, like what the people said, like my voice. We just keep this thing going, you know. Brother here said, you know, the self-autonomy, you know, the self-government, you know, having our own affairs and, you know, being in the temple, you know, and then adhering to the acts, you know, attending the temple meetings, right? Right, as much as you can when possible, while adhering or, you know, keeping part of ourselves with this, the whole thing that's going on, you know, keeping it, you know, because we're still social distancing, right? It's not like we're watching here, right? So,
Islam, Mark.
so yeah, that's how I feel about this. Islam. Peace.
Islam. Peace, Mark. Islam. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
I want to build up and I do that something about that.
The one on Wednesday? Oh, no, on Thursday? Last one? The last song's all up?
Yeah. Last one. Talking about stuff.
Yeah. That was crazy. Yeah.
Wait till next Thursday.
I feel like
Every third Thursday. Don't get excited. Don't get excited. Don't get excited.
Honestly, feel like there's whatever's out there that you share, the collective thought process that's just there to like pick up on and stuff like that. I guess obviously has to do with television too, whatever, but it's all collective on there. That for some reason, I'm feeling so rare, I'm thinking something, it's not pressing me, but it's there, and then all of a sudden there'll be a talking and
Pops up.
Yeah.
That's a regular.
Yeah.
Regular.
Just happens.
Yeah.
All the time.
Oh, like when Charles, when I said the dog, and the dog popped up.
Yeah.
That was weird. You guys are chilling and just
Yeah, so I looked across the street and I was like, yo, is that a dog just laying there? And he's like, nah, that's just how, he's like, that's just how it looks in the time. 2 seconds later,
Dog pop
was
up.
he Syrian or was he Iraqi?
Iraqi.
Iraqi just summed up. Plus, he just
That's
he
what
was like, summon that. Oh, sorry.
It's like a city cup there.
I wish this place was still closed. So you're not, so you're happy to be here.
This was probably touched on, but just in my mind again, is that, you know, the words that we use and our thoughts are so important. So I think, whatever, just a note, because I was thinking, it's like, part of the reason also is why there's such a great rush to, you know, get rid of the air into the state. It is also because it could be the thoughts and the words that are being used of a sleepy person cause more destruction. It just causes more destruction. Like, for example, like somebody who had like a superpower. So the child of Superman, for example, he's gonna have some power, but he doesn't know how to use it. And he's just gonna be straight destructive.
Yeah.
And so it's more problematic for the child that child to not know.
Mhm.
That's what we've been seeing.
Islam. This was like we were talking about in the meeting earlier. We saw Trump talking about churches need to open because we need prayers right now and all this. So we just wanted to go to 1793. 1793. The speech by Maximilien Robespierre. Maximilien Robespierre, one of these French Revolution guys. But he had two speeches on the festival of the Supreme Being. Of Maximilien Robespierre. Oh, sorry, let me get the help out these people online. Maximilien Robespierre, President of the National Convention, to the people gathered for the festival of the Supreme Being. It has finally arrived, the forever fortunate day that the French people consecrate to the Supreme Being. The world that he created has never offered a spectacle so worthy of his regard. He has seen tyranny, crime, and imposture reign on earth. At this moment, he sees an entire nation that is combating all the oppressors of humankind, suspend the course of its heroic labors in order to raise its thoughts and its vows towards the great being who gave it the mission to undertake and strength to execute it. It is not he whose immortal hand, by engraved in the heart of the man the code of justice and equality, traced there to death sentence of tyrants? Is it not he who, from the beginning of time, decreed the republic and placed on the order of the day for all centuries and peoples liberty, good faith, and justice? He did not create kings to devour humankind. He didn't create priests to harness us like vile animals to the chariot of kings and to give an example of baseness, selfish pride, perfidy, avarice, debauch, and falsehood. He created the universe to make known his might. He created men to mutually assist and love each other and to arrive at happiness by the path of virtue. It is he who placed remorse and fear in the breast of the triumphant oppressor and calmed the pride in the heart of the innocent oppressed. It is he who forces the just man to hate the wicked and the wicked to respect the just man. It is he who adorned the face of beauty with modesty so as to make it even more beautiful. It is he who made the maternal entrails palpitate with the tenderness and joy. It is he who bathes the delicious tears the eyes of a son pressed against the mother's breast. It is he who silences the most imperious and tender passions before the sublime love of the fatherland. It is he who covered nature with charms, riches, and majesty. All that is good in his work or is him. Evil belongs to the depraved man who oppresses or allows his like to be oppressed. Peace more. The author of nature ties together all mortals in an immense chain of love and felicity. May the tyrants who dared break it perish. Republican Frenchmen, it is up to you to purify the land they have soiled and recall the justice they have banished. Liberty and virtue sprang together from the breast of the divinity, and one cannot remain among men without the other. Generous people, do you not want triumph over your enemies? Practice justice and render the divinity the only cult worthy of it. People today, let us give ourselves over under its auspices to the just transports of pure happiness. Tomorrow, we will again combat vices and tyrants. We will give the world the example of republican virtues, and in doing this, we honor it again. That was the first speech. Any thoughts on that? I think it also goes to show how, because this is 1790, so it goes to show that there's always been this idea of the so-called governments being corrupt, and regardless of whether it's Europeans, Asiatics, you know what I mean, whoever, in the face of that tyranny, you always have individuals who are taking a position of standing up for righteousness, standing up for justice, standing up for whatever is in harmony with nature and divine law. And one of the angles in order to even change the frequency is, you know, when they're talking about Frenchmen, and they're talking about, you know, God and he and all that stuff, we make our translations so that we can put the right energy on it, while, you know what I mean, it's being put out there. There's one thing that, oh yeah, the author of nature ties together all mortals in an immense chain of love and felicity. So part of that, with regard to everything that's going on, these people know that the frequency of nature does something to the being. So you keep the beings inside, then they're going to be exempt from, you know, the things that nature has to provide. Like we were in the meeting, and, you know, your suits yelling out to everybody in the meeting, make sure you go outside because, you know, the sun feels great and shining down on me right now. He's on the balcony chilling, right? So that's part of the whole thing with next week. You know what I mean? That whole concept of, you know, getting out the building, going outside, not just going outside to walk around concrete or whatever, but go to a forestry area where we could really harmonize, get ourselves grounded again in the essence of who we are and what it is that we're really about. You know what I mean? I don't know if anybody else has anything else. There's one more speech and then we'll continue on. The second speech of the President of the National Convention at the moment when atheism, consumed in flames, has disappeared and wisdom appears in its place to be gazed upon by the people. It has vanished into nothingness, this monster that the genius of kings vomited into France. May all the crimes and misfortunes of the world disappear along with it. Armed either with the daggers of fanaticism or the poisons of atheism, kings always conspire to assassinate humanity. If they can no longer disfigure the divinity by superstition so as to associate it to their misdeeds, they strive to banish him from earth in order to reign there alone with crime. People fear no more their sacrilegious plots. They can no more tear the world from the breast of its author than the remorse of their own hearts. Unfortunates, raise up your beaten down heads. You can still raise your eyes to heaven with impunity. Heroes of the fatherland, your generous devotion is not a brilliant folly. If the henchmen of tyranny can assassinate you, it will not in their own power to entirely obliterate you. Man, whoever you might be, you can yet conceive high thoughts on your own. You can attach your fleeting life to God himself and immortality. Late nature take on again its entire eclat and wisdom all its empire. The supreme being is not obliterated. It is above all wisdom that our enemies wanted to chase from the republic. It is up to wisdom alone to solidify the prosperity of empires. It is for it to guarantee us the fruits of our courage. We must associate it then to all our enterprises. Let us be serious and discreet in all our deliberations, like men who are stipulating the interests of the world. Let us be ardent and tenacious in our anger against league tyranny, imperturbable in the midst of danger, patient in labor, terrible in reverses, modest and vigilant in success. Let us be generous toward the good, compassionate towards the unfortunate, inexorable toward the wicked, just towards all. We must not count on an unalloyed prosperity or triumphs without obstacles, or on whatever depends on the fortune of perversity of others. We should only rest upon steadfast and our virtue sole, but infallible guarantors of our independence. Let us crush the unholy league of kings more through the grandeur of our character than by force of arms. Frenchmen, you are fighting kings, and so you are worthy of honoring the divinity. Being of beings, author of nature, the stupefied slave, and the vile henchman of despotism, the perfidious and cruel aristocrat insults you by invoking you. But the defenders of liberty can abandon themselves with confidence within your paternal breast. Being of beings, we don't have to address you unjust prayers. You know the creatures who have come from your hands, their needs no more escape your gaze than do the most secret thoughts. The hatred of bad faith and tyranny burns in your hearts along with the love of justice and the fatherland. Our blood flows for the cause of humanity. This is our prayer. These are our sacrifices. This is the cult we offer you. Maximilian Robespierre. Right, and again with that idea of Juali presenting to us the principles and a certain way for us to build up our character, us living by that standard to a grandeur level is more powerful than force of arms. Yes, we could have the right to bear and protect the family and protect our property or whatever like that. But we're not seeing some people running down the street just murdering people. Like I was watching last night. I was watching the Hotel Mumbai movie. No, Hotel Mumbai. It's about some terrorists took over some hotel in India, like a real thing, based off true story or whatever. So they were mad with the whole jihad, the whole takeover of their country or whatever like that. So whoever the guy on the phone was that was giving everybody the orders or whatever, he had his little 5 people, and they were just going in spots and just murder everybody. Went into a hotel, murdered everybody on the first floor, went up, knocking on doors, people open, dead. People open, dead. People open, dead. So the hotel had some type of like secret room where you could go through the walls to get there or whatever. Something like that. You know what I mean? I can't remember what they called it, but it was that was the spot that nobody knows about this spot or whatever like that. So, and it's the thing with literally the wall, move the wall, go behind the wall, push the wall back, and it's a wall. You know what I mean? So whoever that they found alive took them to this place or whatever like that. They had them housed in there. In the end of it, all the terrorist guys realized that this guy's messed, because hold on a second, like one guy was shot in his leg and he's going through the whole thing about, I might die, let me call my parents and whatever like that. And he's calling them, and I guess he gave them some story where he's going, so they're going with that. You know what I mean? And he's in that place where he's like, oh, like that's not actually what's happening. Starts crying and all this stuff. You know what I mean? They had hostages. The same dude who got shot, he started murdering the hostages or whatever because they were closing in on them. And one of them started reciting the Quran, one of the hostages, right? And dude was like, well, I can't, I can't kill the dude on the phone was like, yeah, you gotta kill her or whatever like that. She's not a real Muslim and all this. And dude is going through this battle with himself about whatever. So I think so, yeah. You know what I mean? So she was praying and all this, and then so he just set off 2 shots or whatever, and then he left. So in the end, all of them realized this guy's a bastard. Well, might as well just go all out right now, and then they just, you know what I mean? Then they all got shot up or whatever, killed or whatever. So, you know, saying to say that's not what's going on out here. The force that they're using against us is not necessarily on that level. It's more psychological. It's more emotional. You know, the attack isn't what you see people defending out there, as if that they're getting attacked like that. You know what I mean? Again, not that you shouldn't or can't or whatever have, you know what I mean, arms and whatever. You know what I'm saying? But based on this, the grandeur of our character, us living by a certain standard, especially if we're looking at, you know, what Noju Ali laid down, and them having military people at the temple, tanks at the temple, whatever, and never have to fire a shot and got everything done that was supposed to get done. Now, we could say, well, because those things were there is why people gave him the blind, because the guy has you know, members in the temple, but they're part of the military, National Reserve, whatever, and they're using the things that they have access to assist the nation, then might as well leave that guy alone. You know what I mean? Because at any time he can blow the whistle and all those, you know, he can do the Malcolm X, and everybody just, and they start, you know what I mean? So it's important for us to on top of making sure that we exercise that authority that we have to bear arms and weapons and protect ourselves, that our character is straight. You know, it's no different than we're talking about. If we say right to travel and we got our own tags, your stuff got to be straight. You can't be, well, I can do what I want because we have our own plates and you do whatever, because it's not going to amount to what it is that we're looking for, you know, with that, you know, because the character has to be like straight, narrow, no budge room for any type of BS. You know, it just can't be tolerated on a certain level. But that again has to come from the individual recognizing it and seeing it for exactly what it is. That this thing is bigger than any type of physical whatever that we can see that we're going to benefit from saying that we're Mormons. Like there's a whole jurisdiction other than the physical stuff that we get saying that we're Mormons. Just like you're saying, you know, with the Mormons, and then I said, whatever dog, and then dog just popped up out of nowhere. That probably might not have happened if you weren't around the individuals that were on a certain frequency. You know, if anybody has any thoughts, please feel free to express those. So that was again from Maximilian Robespierre, and he was president of the National Convention of the French Republic. Now there was also, of course, with everything going on, there was a few sites that I got sent to address certain things with regard to where we're at and what these people's plan is, why we have to be on our stuff more now than ever. Trudeau government pulls funding for human trafficking victims. I thought you were not going to do it. This is on May 14th, 2020. 9 agencies across Canada that provide services for trafficked and exploited women and girls have been told there is no more money to support their programs. Canadian women's organizations working to support women and girls who have been sexually exploited by men say that Justin Trudeau's Liberal government will not renew federal funding. Programs will close as a result. This clearly signals that the Prime Minister, a self-identifying feminist, considers female victims of male violence and exploitation unworthy to help. He is content to throw these hidden victims to the wolves.
Maybe that's why I was at City Hall yesterday.
They were protesting or whatever? Yeah, I think it was for that.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying it was a thing for violence against women. I couldn't understand why they were there just doing that, but it now makes sense what you're saying. When did that decision come out?
20th or something? Executive Director Megan Walker said the London Abused Women's Centre will have to close its anti-sex trafficking program due to lack of funding. Over a 5-year period, it served over 3,000 women and girls who were trafficked, prostituted, and placed at risk of sexual exploitation. That meant over 3,000 women and girls were treated like human beings with basic needs which any civilized society might meet. And then also too, with regard to that, remember we were talking about this idea of people being inside is opening up the door for abuse. If people are trapped with their abusers, right? So we're looking at the past, however, 2 months, 3 months, or whatever, that they've been on this campaign. This thing is happening to individuals 24 hours a day, opposed to 4 or something like that, when they could escape the house and go do something until they got to come back home, or when they come back home, everybody's sleeping, they get a little break from the abuse or whatever. The whole issue with child services, same thing. I guarantee you that when you look at children's services and that being human trafficking, but they still getting their funding. No funding shut down for CAS or whatever. They're still getting their finance. So this idea of the human trafficking and then it being put out there as if it's just some women and children thing from some guy who wants to pimp them or whatever like that is totally not putting out really what it is as far as that idea. There's a box right there. But I don't know which ones of those work. Some of those just dash any that don't work. In addition, the program will be forced to stop raising awareness via talks in schools, teaching students about grooming tactics of traffickers, thus helping girls to avoid predators. Sex trafficking does not cease to be a national scandal because we are in the midst of a pandemic. Ms. Walker's agency has been contacted by numerous parents whose daughters were groomed online by male sexual predators. These men recorded the girls to make pedophilic internet pornography from which they could profit. Pedophilic internet pornography from which they could profit. Such violations of girls' boundaries make them more likely to be drawn into prostitution and risky sexual behavior in the future. As more and more children are given access to online content and programs due to remote learning and staying indoors, the needs to prevent this kind of grooming is more important, not less. The previous conservative government provided the initial funding for the anti-trafficking program, the measures to address prostitution initiative fund, and it was due to run out in March 2020. When it comes to male violence against women, Trudeau's liberal federal government has broken trust with the women and girls the program served. This will not be forgotten. And I mean, and we'll see if it will not be forgotten, because if they throw them some finance and they shut up, then it will be forgotten. Rochelle Rappaport, speaking for the Justice Minister, and Marie-Pierre Barlin, speaking on behalf of the Minister of Women and Gender Equality, issued a joint statement. It stated that the federal government remains committed to its national strategy on human trafficking. In September 2019, it announced $75 million investment in the strategy. All of this begs the question as to why the federal funding has been pulled at such a critical time. The investment is there, but it has been decided that an effective, heavily used, relatively inexpensive project will not continue to run. Given the rates of domestic violence against women, given that rates of domestic violence against women have increased during shelter-at-home measures, thus placing more women at risk of falling prey to predators, to traffickers, the decision seems even more unjust. Megan Walker said, "The self-proclaimed feminist Prime Minister of Canada has decided that notwithstanding his government's commitment to make trafficking in Canada a priority issue to address, another year of consultation is required. This would be the third Canada-wide consultation in 3 years." One thing we want to we want to also put out there, just for people who are in this sort of in this realm, and looking at the whole idea of the human trafficking and oh my gosh, what am I gonna do right now or whatever. You can go out there and pick up Sister Bakia's book, The Teen Sex Trade. It's under the name of Jade Brooks. That's what we did. We did a live with her, going over the book and interviewing her about all this, to show that even though they cancel some funding, there's ways to solve some of these issues, right? It doesn't have to be that these people are funding their stuff for them to do whatever. We know that it's about they got rent to play and resources to create and hand out and whatever. But once the victims themselves find it in themselves, they realize that they really don't need those people. Those people are a secondary support system. They're not the primary support system, right? Again, if the mother could take her experiences and put out this literature of how to deal with it, it lets you know that they can heal themselves. Because when you read the thing, you realize that her going through all this and writing it out and going over again and editing it is reliving all these things over again. To be able to do that shows that you're strong in order to deal with it. Right now, yeah, we know everybody's not there. It might not be like that for everybody to do that. But if all these victims took that position, then they would be doing it for themselves and not need, quote unquote, funding from these people who, they're saying, okay, well, if he's a feminist and stuff, why are you taking his finance? If you know that much, that he really doesn't care like that, then why you even, right? So I wonder if anybody has any thoughts on that. Feel free to put those out.
Based on what you were saying, if the victims took the position to do that themselves, then I think you would also see those organizations somehow still reaching out to those victims who uplifted themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Just because that organization itself is there to uplift.
Right.
Because other victims, because of the organization.
Right.
They can bring that person to speak.
Right.
And fund things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to that, it's just to show too that how the economy is just collapsing.
Yeah.
Everybody's begging for money. You got the mayor of Toronto, complaining that if that's going to give them money, you got to cut funding to certain programs, and it's just a whole bunch of complaining going on with funding, right? So this is just another show of how all this just fell. It's just wow. It's up to us now. Just continue doing what we're doing and just
Yep.
like you said, self-autonomy, right? You got to do self-government. Right?
I'm reading the medical that's talking about that too.
Medical?
Yeah, the medical.
Mm.
It says that self-government, everyone relies on someone else. You're always relying on someone else to handle your situations or complete what to do instead of just thinking for yourself. That's the problem.
The most basic level is still self-government. Still have to know yourself, right?
Yeah.
Well, even just the emotional space, like the sister in the church, she's right. I mean, even just to govern yourself in healing.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Sorry, it's going back a bit. So you said they took away the funding for the programs and then they're gonna do the programs through the school?
Mm-hmm.
So what was being rolled out in the school system? What were they saying?
Hold on. I forgot to close the thing.
What are they claiming?
What school system? Maybe the online school system?
Let's see if that's.
Let's
see the last thing.
Parents get paid for online classes?
Who's that?
The teachers get paid for all that stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know who doing all this stuff with it.
Yeah.
And then you got the top ups of all the front line, right?
So they get paid too?
They're all get topped up, right?
Okay, does the principal get paid too?
Oh yeah. Yeah, everybody's.
organization.
Yeah. Huh?
She's still, the principal's managing the teachers and what they're teaching.
Yeah, they're still working.
You know?
So along the same lines with what I said, on Harmony, before Adelaide, they had not abandoned, but abandoned school. Which is a school that are capacity.
They're gonna knock it down. That's what they do for now. They're not gonna lease it.
Yeah, because they're building autonomous trucks.
So pastors are at home getting paid. My dad dropped by the other day. And I was like, so how's your church thing going? And he's like, it's great. We're doing it online now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So I said, yo, big guy, real talk. So when I was growing up, going there like 5 days a week, this could have went on. No, we didn't have the technology then. I'm like, yo, big guy, are you hearing yourself? Like, where's my dad? Yeah, like what? Crazy. So they're still. So I said to him, so you're still paying your tithes and offerings? Like, yes, of course. They're close to you. So you're not going there and singing and this and no, it's not the same. But you're still paying full price.
Yeah.
So the pastor,
Who's
of
paying
the
the
church,
pastor though?
that's the congregation.
Congregation, all
Right,
That's
so what
the
are you saying?
finance.
So you're saying they're still getting paid. You're saying it's the people still giving their
Yeah,
energy.
correct. Like what?
online. So
So you remember a long time ago we saw that little meme where it was some I think it was somewhere in the east, but a robot was the pastor of the church.
Yeah. Ties still up here.
So that's where they're going with this one.
Do you need some donation? That we put on the board, just.
They're at home, right? And they're just sending in the fiat.
Just let me.
So it's who's running the church champions, man. It's close. So the pastor gets paid to stay at home. The bishop and whoever, all the people that, they're not buying no communion crackers no more.
He's ready, sir.
They're not buying, what?
He's ready. He's
Oh,
ready.
they just read from the Bible?
I'm mocking. I'm mocking.
The preacher most of the time, whoever it is, usually creates a sermon.
Yeah.
The sermon is a lot of the times comes out of the book, and a lot of the times it's his own thing.
Yeah.
Right? So, but this is what I think you were here for. This is what I was saying, because I check it every day just to sort of stay current with what kind of nonsense they're trying to push through. That's what I'm saying. Trump is basically saying that they're pointing out that they're going to overrule anything, and he's demanding that churches be open. Like he was saying this just 2 days ago. I'm telling everyone that churches need to be open now. He's saying America needs prayer. This is what I've been saying to Cujo 2 months ago. I said, really, where's God now? God obviously is beholden to this virus, right? Obviously, this virus is bigger than God, because I thought God was what runs everything, right?
Yeah.
So the deal being is that exactly what we're talking about. This stuff is coming around again. That kind of thing being online is coming to an end because that energy is really not there. But they've just been keeping it going to sort of keep the finance coming in. So this man next door here, just to give you a heads up, because we were talking to him. He said, "Well, yeah, we're all online right now. Blah blah blah." Right? But he's still Chris. He's just sitting there watching with his big screen, watching his TV and thing. But I mean, you got to know that it's hitting him in the pocketbooks. You got to know that, right? And that
for your congregation.
Well, yes.
That too, yeah. That too.
You don't have your overhead that you had. You don't got to travel and go to work. You don't have to go by.
Yeah, but hold on. But
every week.
yes, sure. But we also have to remember this. There's a psychological thing. That's what we've all been talking about. This whole aspect of being inside, locked inside. That stuff is affecting people. Yeah. So that's part of it. We've got to get people back out and coming together. That energy like this can't be done online. No. Right? So
He did say that's not the same. But then I said, well, you claim the same.
Right.
well, I mean, Kiva,
Kiva,
we were talking about that here though, right? Because ultimately when we stop, there have been certain people that haven't been paying their dues, right? Now you could say, hey, well, I'm not getting a service. But ultimately, right? No, people could say that, right?
You guys had stuff online from time.
No, but the aspect of the actual physical
the
building,
physical.
if you're not able to come to the building, why should I be? You see what I'm saying? But the deal being, someone still needs to.
No. You guys said that from time though. So when you come to the table, send a message and you'll be accommodated.
I'm hearing you, but I'm saying that the aspect of
Where we're at now.
These criminals who've said, okay, everything's got to be closed, rent still needs to be paid, sort of thing on certain levels, right? Now that's what we were talking about from the perspective that if you're going to shut the whole economy down, then really there should be a moratorium on rent, right? No rent should have to be paid. They were saying that now that we can't evict you now, but at the end of this, we still want our money. So how are you really helping us?
Yeah.
Because we're not going to be being paid 4 times the amount of money when we go back to work,
Yeah.
right? So I think one of the things we should all understand, and this is why my question to you is, where do we go from here? Because we understand that this is something other than what they're saying it is. This is not really about COVID. It's really about control of the people. Really, inherently, it's about control. Because when you break anything down, you realize the masks don't work. I see people driving around with the mask, they take the mask down, they put the mask up, and then it's working off. You take that mask down, the mask is done. You're wearing the mask for more than 2 hours, it's done. See what I'm saying? They're talking about 6 foot distance, and then they're talking about your stuff being aerosolized. So if it's there, it's hanging in the air.
It's there.
It's 6 feet different. If
It's
you
not
breathe
gonna
out, I walk through where you're. This is what I was saying to the elevator. This is what I was saying to the man in the elevator. We have in our building. I was talking to Kudo about this. Kudo's real elevator. There are not 3 people. I live in a building. The elevator is big. We're 3, right? Big. There was only 1 person elevator. So you'd be like, push the button. Door would open, someone would be in there, he'd give you this look, you give him this look. Right? 12-person maximum. Right. So they finally put it down to 2. So about 2 weeks ago, yeah, no, it was like that, right? It was like, right? So about 2 weeks ago, I'm in there, there's a guy with a mask on, and the door opens, and I'm about to go, yeah, and he's like, well, come on in. He's like, I don't know what's going on here. He goes, so wait, I'm in the elevator, and I get out, you get in the elevator. Aren't you breathing my shit? I stepped in and we're like, you know. And then the next thing, I get on the next one 2 days ago, and there's a man in there, I moved floors. So he's in the floor and he opens up and I open up. I'm like, and he's like, right? So then I get in, he's like, I don't know what's going on here. She's like, there's not even 6 feet between us, right? Because they got this little thing underneath the seats. It's not even, this is how big the elevator is. And Cujo's is about half that. So I don't even know what's going on in Cujo's.
Bro, with our building, they're not even playing the. But just going in, like, they don't care. Like what? What do you mean? What do you mean? I'm going to penthouse. Like what do you mean waiting for? I'm not
Well, you
waiting.
see what's crazy is they got one elevator. I want to show everyone this. So they did this. So this is what at the park yesterday.
Yeah.
That's Christie Pitts? No, this is Trinity Square. This is the park. This is the park yesterday. This is the park yesterday. This is this madness.
Yeah.
This is what's going on here. Look at this shit.
Right.
Look at this. We may as well have an orgy.
Right.
We may as well have an orgy. I don't know what's going on there. What is that? And they're saying the mayor now is mad. He's got a mask on now. He's like, I'm mad. Everyone's. What are you talking about? It's 25 degrees.
Can you say
So what this is
like Carmen said, is that these are the times that every weak mind's being tried. So what better than the tool to try weak minds?
Yeah, straight.
So we're just seeing pure weak minds.
But I think one of the things I think we have to realize, and this is one of the things I've been experiencing, and this is why I say it's strength in numbers. It's not even about us. I was talking to the man on the thing. You know, you're walking down the street, if you see certain people that see you, we're walking, they'll be like, yeah! So me and you were walking down the street, and he's like, yeah, I'm like, I go look in the mirror, I'm like, you know, do I something hanging out my face or something? It's crazy. I don't know what's going on here. But it's that, but it's that energy. It's that energy that's driving us. Even my mom, who I've been trying to sort of get together, she'll come out. I go to give her a kiss. She's like, I'm like, wait a minute, you've carried me in your body for 9 months. She's like, well, you know what? But I'll be honest with you, on a certain level, it really kind of, it sort of hit me inside, because I was just going to give my mom a kiss, and she pulled back, and I said to myself, wow, I said, this is kind of crazy, but really, and what I realized is this, so they said 53 million people died in 2016, but 140 million people were born. So this process of life and death is part of this whole thing. This is part of our understanding of things. And we have to understand that we're all going to pass form. It's not a death, it's a passing of a form. Right? But what they've got is they've got our minds. Right? I mean, I think you put that on the quote on one of your documents, that it's about the mind. Once you've got the minds of these people, I mean, that was one of the fears that I had, right? So
hold on. 1 second before you say that. Zaire, remember what we were talking about? Just stuff just popping up. Yeah. What did you just asked me before? If what?
Mind is God.
And then what did you bring up? What are you talking about with the mind? Or he had just asked me.
Is the mind God?
Is the mind God?
It is.
Well, they say thought, they said Allah is thought and thought is Allah. So if we are a thought of Allah, then we must be Allah.
Right.
But I mean, but beyond that, the deal being though is that, and this is one of the fears that they were talking about another incident where some people were having some social gatherings and they have this snitch line that Ford has set up.
Yeah.
To sort of, and so what happened?
100 grand.
Some people were obviously angry. And so they called up, and I'm thinking to myself, this is where it's gotten now, and this is what I thought about last week. So this is the deal. Anyone passing on the street right now could be the orchestrator of your death.
Yeah.
That's where we've gotten to in a mindset on a certain level, right? Because of this COVID thing, because they don't know, if I pass by you and somehow some of you or whatever gets on me, I might be dead. So therefore, everyone now out there is a potential killer to me.
Yeah.
So then, ergo, then now everyone now, you see what I'm saying? So they set up this level of anxiety, paranoia, panic, and once they get your mind there, then they can guide you, right? And that's what it is with my mom. I'm like, Mom, wait a minute. What's good? I said, let's have something in the backyard. I said, I'll stand on it. It's been months. And that was who called me this morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure. She's like, you made my day. I just wanted to make sure you were all right. She was calling me yesterday. I was a bit mad because she didn't want
Yeah,
to
you're
test me,
distant.
right? So I finally picked up, but that's crazy.
Yeah, distant.
So yeah, the question is, where do we go from here?
But what I noticed, like those interactions, like you see the weak minds, which appear to be the majority, but they really stand out, like especially coming to these interactions. But I mean, it's funny because I was inside one of the superstores and I was passing with his girlfriend, and I was waiting for mine, and he said to his girl, and then the guy told me he pointed to the floor and told me to move forward, and that's what he said to the girl. And then the guy pointed and he went like that, and it seemed like it was kind of going into his girlfriend's ear. And so I was like, what did I say? I said, yeah, this corner, things got everybody tripping. And he turned to me, thanks, man. I'm like, yeah. And so, yeah,
there are people out there that are conscious.
Yeah.
And so that's the perfect opportunity to get. I mean, you can't say so much information out, but at least get a laugh. Because the laugh is that higher vibration. That laugh, to get that out, it resonates that real corona, the real aura that we need instead of a paranoia aura. Because the paranoia is just destructive.
No, just with regard to the paranoia era, let's play this one. See if we get anything.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another SACPA session. During this time of social and physical distancing, SACPA believes it's important to keep engaging with the public on issues of the day, and in order to do so, we are very thankful for the continuing support we receive from the University of Lethbridge, Shaw Spotlight, and the Lethbridge Herald. Today we have with us as speakers Dr. Melanie Thomas and Lisa Lambert on the topic of should people break COVID-19 social distancing rules? Should those people be punished for breaking the rules? Melanie Thomas is an associate professor of political science at the University of Calgary. Her research focuses on the causes and consequences of gender-based political inequalities in Canada and other post-democracies. Lisa Lambert is a student of parliaments, loves to regale her family with tales of politics, procedure, and party structure. Welcome both to SACPA, and we look forward to your talk.
Well, thank you very much, Annalise. I'll get started, and if you can start, just show the first title slide, maybe. I wanted to introduce this in terms of what we were thinking when we asked this question. A couple of months ago, just as the COVID was starting and the physical distancing was beginning and that kind of thing, both Melanie and I saw a number of people asking the question, why won't people just follow the rules are there, why won't we follow them, they should be punished. And we wanted to think about that in terms of some of the political science literature. So if you can go to the second slide. We went back to one of the earliest pieces on collective action, which was by Olson. And Olson's sentence here really points to a sense that individuals cannot work together for the collective good. Annalise, if you can flip to the next one. But we knew that that was actually, if you can go to the second slide. We went back to one of the earliest pieces on collective action, which was by Olson. And Olson's sentence here really points to a sense that individuals cannot work.
All right, so the quote that they have here is Mancur Olson, 1965. The logic of collective action. Unless the number of individuals is quite small or there is coercion, rational, self-interested individuals will not act to achieve their common or group interests.
That sounds like it's swaying people away from what they need or
Right.
telling them you can't do it.
And then for us, we could look at it from the perspective of collective thought. You know, individuals, like we're already small. Like it's not like 50 million of us or whatever. You know what I mean? So we have to like the conscious ones, the ones who are on the frequency. We have to not be in that position of self-interested. You know what I mean? That's why we have Holy Covenant and stuff like that. So everyone looks after each other. There's not one individual that's supposed to be, well, they think it's just them or they're on their own or whatever. There's supposed to be some type of collective initiative. There's supposed to be some type of unification amongst everybody, right? Which again goes back to why we say nationality is the order of the day and why we all wear fezzes and turbans and why we all got nationality card and all that, because that collective energy is something that is needed in society. It can't be, you know, everybody's in their room on the thing for us to have a meeting, you know, or like they're saying with the church, you know what I mean? Oh yeah, well, you know, we're doing it online because, you know, we have to do it that way based on the circumstance, but that's not a reality. You know, this interchange is something that society is built on and based in. You know what I mean? Like we use the example of you know, like we're saying with the elevator thing, or even go to the store. See, they got the, you know what I mean, stuff up. You know, they got the plastic up or whatever, but above and below the plastic is space. Like what do you mean you're stopping something? There's a little hole right there for you to put the money through. You think the thing can't go under there and you could get it?
But I just also want to speak to certain things of understanding how dysfunctional all this is, because remember before they were saying that even touching was an issue.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
yeah.
before everyone was supposed to be gloved up. Now they dropped that.
They dropped the gloves. Yeah. Gloves aren't even in the situation anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Even the mask now, because when you really talk to professionals, you know it's all garbage. But they're saying that you're wearing the mask for someone else's protection now.
Right.
So now they're putting it on you to help your neighbor out. Right? It's not even about really that you're stopping getting it. You're really stopping giving it. But to me, none of that even makes sense either, because we understand all the nuances. But
then you talk to somebody in the profession, and they're using the mask to stop spitting in people's wounds and stuff like that if they're operating. They're not using the mask to protect them from catching something from that way going this way.
Yeah, and those masks are nothing like the one
yeah, right. yeah. No use whatsoever.
Yeah. I didn't have that.
Yeah.
I learned how to work it. So
I have that, I see that, I see people are ready, and I just think.
Yeah.
When I realize they go inside with that, they look at people like, it's my brother.
Right.
Like, what are you doing? I'm your father. It's love.
It's love.
It's love. It's love. It's love.
Together for the collective good. Annalise, if you could flip to the next one. But we knew that that was actually not true. It doesn't make sense that people cannot work together. We actually have many pieces of evidence that people do work together collectively for their own good, that the old ideas of homo economicus, or the 100% rational, always focused on himself kind of person, is not who most of us are. And many people are prepared to work together, inconvenience themselves, and do things for the greater good. I think of blood donors, I think of people donating to people on
distancing in particular, and especially in public spaces, how those new social norms are not particularly resilient to older ones. And these, I think the authoritarian state and for me, this kind of competition between other social norms, they really dovetail nicely together because, again, I like to run. I live in downtown Calgary, so I'm right by the river path system where, at least where I live, it's very easy for people, if they're actually using the path in a way that is considerate to the 2-meter rule or the 6-foot rule, everybody can get around each other easily. Sometimes it might mean like waiting and not necessarily passing and kind of like modifying your workout for somebody else. Because none of us are going to be racing anytime soon, all of us are like, maybe you should just slow down and enjoy instead of like doing interval workouts. Leaving all that aside, one of the things I noticed is that when I would encounter somebody, a stranger, who was very clearly not following these rules, I would have a very clear narrative in my head about what I would want to say. But there were instances where I didn't because I didn't feel safe to say something. And this would be a case where, because I'm a woman, there were men where it was just like, I don't know what his reaction is going to be. But people would typically react badly to being called out for being the jerk. Like nobody wants to be the jerk in a context, right? And so being like hey, could you, like, you need to be over 4 feet. You're only giving me 2 feet of space. So with men, with women, I had these narratives, and it was interesting how I was physically unable to actually say the COVID-19 social norms in the context of the norms of like self-protection, or this idea of just being nice, things along these lines. And so this is one of these things where it creates an interesting policy problem. And I think, like, I haven't heard any kind of public health official or any kind of like policy response about how to deal with these competing social norms, except for like the repetition of the message where like you need to do this now, and so there's kind of an expectation. But I think it's worth noting that if we're trying to build,
and then going back to the thing that Omar was showing with, you know, if they say okay, fine, you know, we got to get back to whatever, so whatever. There's no way people could social distance out there like that with that many people out there. There's no way. It doesn't even make sense that you're even gonna try to implement this thing of, you know, people should social distance or not or whatever. You know, it's all at this point it's like some show. It's not a real thing like that. You know what I mean?
Sorry to cut you. What I realized is that even though I think what you were talking about, how whatever the statement you were making about how you can't rule people, or what was like something was being said where the masses can't basically rule themselves. The deal being that they have to keep, because it is a facade, and the fact that, okay, well, I've been social distancing in my house now for the last 3 months, I'm not sick, right?
Yeah.
There starts to be a reality that starts to sort of come in an inner conscious way. All right, well, I've been doing this now for 4 months and I'm not sick. So what's going on here? The deal being they have to keep up this program.
Yeah.
They have to keep up the force on you because I was thinking about this in the shower a couple of days ago. I used to have this analogy that it's like trying to, if anyone's ever swam and then had a ball, like any ball that has air in it, try and take that ball and go underwater. Instantly you let the ball go, it goes right up to the surface. So really that's how our consciousness is. Our consciousness is really like that ball. It has to continue to be held down to maintain what they're maintaining. So they've got to keep up. That's why they were saying, so the reason why they even got to this point of phase one is they said that the numbers were lower. All right, the reason why we got phase one is because the numbers were lower. But from my perspective, the reason why they got to phase one is that they had to start letting some of us out because it's just gone on too long.
Yeah.
But the deal being is that, like you saw on that picture there, you give us even just a breath of air.
We're taking the word.
When you saw everyone's happy, you didn't see
nobody was mad or whatever.
Whatever. But then they had to come at you. Well, them doing that now. You think it's all cool now? In 2 weeks now, whatever.
The second wave.
The second wave's coming. But the narrative that they've also been sending is that the numbers are actually going back up again.
Yeah.
They're telling you what they're going to do.
Right, no, but what I'm saying to you, this is what it is. They keep giving you two different messages.
Two narratives.
No, but two
Opposite, yeah.
Two opposite narratives.
Yeah.
And what that does is it creates what I call cognitive dissonance, which means that what I'm being told is not being matched up with what I'm seeing. At that point, then,
once you go with it,
one of my friends is breaking this down to you guys. What happens is that if you're saying go left and then you're saying go right? You're saying, okay, today they're saying go left, tomorrow they're saying go right. Well, if you're going to stand there going, which way do I go? Then you're primed to be told to
which way.
Then you're being primed to be told to go back, because you see what I'm saying? Because you don't know which way to go.
Yeah.
Your brain has actually been shut down because you've been given so many messages, left, right, up, down. Okay, so what do I do? Okay, well now this is what you do.
Yeah.
Right? Rather than allowing the natural process to go. Wait a minute, I've been at the store. I don't know if any of you have been shopping, but I don't know what 6 foot distance is going on in the shopping. In the grocery store. Yeah. I'm next to the man. I'm grabbing a can of thing. He's grabbing a can of thing. What's 6 foot distance, right? So the deal to me is that they have to keep. That's why if you notice on the news, everything, commercials, everything now is all about this.
Everything.
You can't escape anything.
Yeah.
Right? This is what it is. So that to me is what the program is. They have to keep this at the forefront, because the human soul and spirit would totally negate all of this. But we have to keep the conscious lower self in this place.
Yeah, we're trying.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, you can go see the chair. Go ahead, Mocha. Sorry,
all you need to do is hear. You don't need to see it.
English for you, Mocha.
Forbes. Yeah, she doesn't have room. I asked her already.
Yeah, sorry, I realized. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all good.
I'm sure there are people who can use it. No, it's going to be. It's going.
Forbes put out an article. A consequence of COVID-19 could be a loss of civil liberties resulting in career restrictions. The reality is that the political class is self-interested. Our founding fathers never viewed serving in Congress or the government as a full-time career. It was an honor and a duty to serve for a short period of time. They do their part, then quickly return to their farms, businesses, and occupations. Today, being a politician is considered a full-time job, one that is held for decades. If there is a chance that their decision could harm their careers, they'll take a self-preservation route. With regard to reopening the economy, if a politician gives clearance to reopen businesses and then people die, they will be vilified and thrown out of office. If they don't call for a reopening, less people would die, but they may lose their jobs, savings, and businesses, which won't be seen as bad for their long-term career. A disturbing trend noticed throughout the outbreak has been the aggressive and heavy-handed way our officials have acted. We've been sternly directed to shelter in place with the thinly veiled threat of serious repercussions if we don't comply. There have been numerous reports of people getting arrested or fined for being outside or walking alone on a beach. A clip.
Sorry, just touch it.
Yeah,
That's
go ahead.
something that I find very profound. How come the punishment is always you extracting some more finance out of you? You know what I'm saying? How come
Well,
that-
there's also a 1-year jail too.
That's what they're saying?
Yeah.
Is the next thing?
No, that's with the social distancing, whatever, the 100 with the businesses, they were saying 100 grand and a year.
If businesses are not
Are
following
not
that?
following and they get caught or whatever the hell it is.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go.
No, that's what that was it. I was just saying that
Okay.
how come it always seems that it's finance?
It's finance that they
The
want,
average Joe,
yeah.
It's like a 500 or 600 or whatever.
Yeah. Whether you agree or disagree with the closing of businesses and orders to stay home, you'd have to acknowledge that that's right out of George Orwell's classic 1984. Remember, this is Forbes talking. Petty state bureaucrats telling us to report people who may possibly be breaching social distancing measures reeks of an authoritative big brother controlling over every move. Once rights are stripped away, it's hard to get them back. When was the last time you saw a toll booth removed on a highway? We're still required to take off our shoes before boarding a plane. It's not like we haven't seen this happen in the recent past. After September 11th, we sacrificed our liberties for safety. According to a piece in the New York Times, looking back at the terror attacks 10 years earlier, the Patriot Act undeniably expanded the government's surveillance powers and the scope of criminal laws. Out of the fear of future terror attacks, we accepted abridged rights, including being eavesdropped on our phone calls by government agencies, the telecommunication companies sharing our information with law enforcement, our bank and investment accounts being scrutinized and being thoroughly searched like criminals before boarding a plane. Many people aren't aware that we used to walk right up to the plane without 2-hour waits, metal detectors, and TSA patting us down. The government, along with the media allies, have suppressed dissenting opinions. On Twitter, accounts that offer different takes outside of the norm are suppressed. Zero Hedge, an irrelevant and financially oriented blog, suggested that COVID-19 might have been started by a bioweapons lab in Wuhan, China, which did not conform to our accepted narrative. Rather than allow a different viewpoint, Zero Hedge was permanently banned from Twitter. We've closed our borders, stopped flights in and out of the country, and banned certain people from entering America.
Just,
Yeah, and if anybody has any thoughts that comes up while we're reading, just put them out.
saying today that because, I guess you see behind the scenes thing with this war with China, whatever it is, whether it's really a war or not, because you realize that they make up these enemies to have you sort of be afraid of something. They were saying that they were trying to blame this lab in Wuhan. And the lab in Wuhan was saying, we don't even have that virus here. We don't even have that COVID here. So whatever you're talking about is bullshit. But the narrative is still there. They're still beating Chinese people down in the streets over something that somehow, some innocent individual who happens to be of a Chinese descent has somehow brought this.
Yeah.
And it's all xenophobia.
Texas and Ohio have banned almost all abortions. How long would these measures be kept in place? When you watch the daily press briefings of President Donald Trump, you will see a couple dozens of reporters sitting a few seats apart from each other. Why is that permissible? Yet churches are forced to close during one of the most important Christian holidays. America is the Mecca of people from around the world to emigrate to so they could freely practice their religions without persecution. In a move that seems more appropriate for a brutal dictatorship, the government and states warn that churches should keep their services as too many people will be gathered together. The Justice Department asks Congress for the chief judges to detain people indefinitely without trial during emergencies. According to Politico, this is only part of a larger strategy to push for new powers in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Anthony Fauci, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, said that the federal government is thinking of issuing certificates of immunity from the coronavirus. This may be enacted to better identify people who have been infected with the virus. When questioned, he replied, "You know that's possible." Two tech giants that already hold most of our private data, Google and Apple, jointly announced an effort to use Bluetooth technology to alert people if they've been exposed to coronavirus. Those who have contracted the virus or have signs of it will be outed. Whatever outed means. Outed. The American Civil Liberties Union brought up serious concerns about tracking users with phone data. The ACLU has called for a need to limit its scope. How long will it be before we have to have our temperatures taken before we enter an office building? Prior to September 11th, you could have walked into any New York City office tower, asked for the person you wanted to meet with, go right to the elevator, banks, and up to the person's office. Now, you have to wait in line, show your driver's license or passport, get your picture taken, and be scrutinized by Surly security guards. Surly security guards. Dr. Michael Ryan, Dr. Michael Ryan, Executive Director of WHO Emergencies Program, said surveillance is part of what's required for life to return to normal in a world without a vaccine. He also took it several steps further by saying, now we need to go and look in families to find those people who may be sick and remove them and isolate them in a safe and dignified manner. Just so you know, we're coming to your house, seizing your children, and isolating them in a safe and dignified manner, whatever that means. This is a direct bearing on your job and career. Think of how many people will be denied jobs because Apple and Google Tracker shows that you have, or were in contact with someone who was infected.
Or will have.
The Human Resources Department will say that the company is truly sorry that it couldn't hire you, as it has a responsibility to look after the health and well-being of its employees. After this crisis ebbs, if you have gone to an airport to fly out and meet a client across the country, enter a building to attend an important meeting, go to a networking event, or take out a customer for lunch, will you be required to show an ID card proving that you're healthy enough to enter the premises? Consider what may happen to those with pre-existing health issues that render them susceptible to COVID-19 and future virus outbreaks. They got plans.
Yes.
Will they be discriminated against? It will be difficult and expensive for companies to provide safe conditions for this group of people. It will be more convenient to pass on hiring or forcing them to be secluded by solely working from home. It's likely that new compliance and regulatory rules will be put into place. Laws will demand companies to set distance between desks and the amount of people permitted to work in an office at a time. The number of employees in an elevator or attending a meeting may be strictly monitored. Business matters that require air travel, stays in hotels, and dining out at restaurants could be denied or closely regulated in fear of catching or spreading a virus. Companies may be forced to subject their employees to mandatory health checks and wearing masks. The moves made by politicians and bureaucrats during the pandemic will have severe long-term repercussions for our careers and lives that could prove to be worse than the outbreak itself. Any thoughts? You could throw those out.
We actually do, well, for my job, the opening for as of tomorrow. So they already told you the way what they're implementing. We need you to wear the mask the whole day, gloves the whole day. So, and they're gonna check your temperature with the radar or something.
Mine too.
Yeah. So I said, okay.
The lucky one. Lucky one.
These people are crazy. You read about there's a story about the black man here in Toronto. I never read the paper, but it was sitting in front of me. He was a PSW or some sort of a healthcare worker. He having real bad problems breathing, and his wife knew, it was bad, so she took him to the hospital. Of course, you have to drop him off, and I don't remember the same day or the next day or something. He come home and passed. He's gone. The man's gone. So they let him out of the hospital. I guess maybe they needed the bed.
Maybe they gave him something.
You know what I'm saying? He was 60 something.
Yeah, it was tomorrow.
Harvesting, beyond harvesting years.
That's exactly what I said. Exactly. It's a really terrible thing. But so there's this whole thing in the Star about how in the States they were talking about how they're targeting black people with this COVID and how we're more prone to get it and blah blah die from it. So now it looks like they have to look at that here in so-called Canada as well.
Oh, just so anybody online, Mama Mocha did the quote unquote when she said black. I know you can't see the quote unquote. I know you can't see the air quote unquotes, but just to clear the air. Yeah, just calm down. Calm down. We got this. She protected herself. She reserved her rights when she said black.
Yeah, the story in the Star is going to do the black.
Yeah. Right. One more little video. Oh, that's interesting. No sound on this one? They must have shut this one down. Oh, sound's off.
Step back. And what did you find? Secretary Fox News contributor, best-selling author, Bill Bennett. Bill, what are we missing about this virus? We see the numbers, 22,000 dead, how many cases, but you took a step back, and what did you find?
Yeah, let's take a step back. The estimates now from the University of Washington, which is the model everybody's been going on, even though it's been wrong most of the time by a lot, overstating it, is now they say 60,000 people will die. 61,000 is what we lost to the flu in 2017 and 2018. The flu. Now, we all regret the loss of 61,000 people, if that's what it turns out to be. I'm going to tell you, I think it's going to be less. And salute all those who are working in the front lines on this, the hospital workers, the nurses, the doctors, et cetera, and the generosity of the American people. But if you look at those numbers and see the comparable, we're going to have fewer fatalities from this than from the flu. For this, we scared the hell out of the American people. We lost 17 million jobs. We put a major dent in the economy. We closed down the schools. You heard Dr. Oz say we probably didn't have to do that. Shut down the churches and so on. This was not and is not a pandemic, but we do have panic and pandemonium as a result of the hype of this. And it's really unfortunate. Look at the facts.
It is labeled a pandemic, but You also point out that you believe from the number that you're able to see, if you get it, you have a 98% chance to survive.
Correct. Less than 2/10 of one. If you're average American, 2/10 of 1% chance that you're going to get it. 2/10. And if you get it, you have a 98% chance of recovery. These things are very rarely heard out there. As Dr. Oz was just saying, people with the comorbidities who have, heart disease, very high blood pressure, who are 75 years old. I'm in my 70s. These are the real risks. Believe scared the heck out of everybody. And, psychologically, as a people, remember 9/11? When we talked about let's roll. In this one, there's been too much let's roll up in a ball, let's hide under the bed. This is not the way America works. Let's get back to work. And by the way, on this back to work thing, there's this metaphor that seems to be governing the conversation is flip on the light switch. Don't flip on the light switch. Get a 3-way bulb. You don't have to go all the way to 100. Go to 70, 50, 70, and then 85. But, the country has suffered enormously. To say nothing of what has occurred as a result of the shutdown in terms of fatalities. 300% increase in the suicide hotline. Big increase in opioid epidemic. How much domestic violence? Child protective services can't get to people's houses. There are real costs to panic and pandemonium.
Real cost to panic and pandemonium.
Anything from this? I just need time to think.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's it.
Yeah. It's definitely been a time for going in.
There's been some good things. I went to the bank the other day and it's closed up. I just wanted to get to an automated machine. And there was me and there was another sister in there and we both looked at each other and we laughed when someone tried to come in, saw 2 people and the one in the middle is closed for social distancing and just walked themselves out. We're like, man, that would have never happened before. You'd have had that person breathing over your back trying to get a machine. Like, at least they probably know some manners and some hygiene.
Now, also too, we wanted to you came late, but we wanted to find out how everybody's dealing with their stuff and how it feels to be back since you were here last week either, right? Yeah, you were here last week. So yeah, so last week was our first getting back in, but we wanted to get people's how you've been dealing with and how does it feel to be back in the temple since we've been closed for 2 weeks or a month.
It feels great to be back in the temple. It really feels good to be in the temple right now,
Mm-hmm.
This being away, their goal here are there's many goals, but one of the things they're doing is they want everybody scared, stiff, right? Literally. And they want, this. Another thing is you're talking about automation. So for the last few years, they've had, you go to the supermarket and you can check yourself out. So the bank and everything is AI now. So this thing about we've lost how many millions of jobs, them jobs ain't coming back.
Yeah.
Because they're going to make that money. Actually, you pay me, just like when Eli Whitney apparently invented the cotton gin, and that it was one of the reasons that slavery was abolished and all that stuff. Because you don't have to feed the machine.
Yeah.
You don't have to make sure it's, you just have to buy it and make sure it's,
Yeah.
So these people have a huge, they want to get rid of us. They want to replace us with machines. So one machine can do the work of 100 people or whatever. And, and as far as I'm concerned, I do what I usually do. I go and I do what I have to do.
Yeah.
Wherever I have to go, I go. I haven't worn a mask yet. I refuse to wear a mask because I know that it's more harm than good. And as far as people are concerned, if there are some that'll ask, are you still hugging? And some will tell you, no, and that's cool. If you don't want to hug, that's not a problem with me.
Yeah.
But most people that I've been in contact with, if they were huggers before, they're still huggers now. Yeah. There's a few that don't. They bought into the whole agenda. A lot of my family members, people that I've spoken to in Montreal and places like that, they're, oh no, I gotta have my mask on and blah, blah, blah. I refuse to live in fear.
Yeah.
I mean, they always have us under this, what is it called? Occupation and right? They always have us under occupation, only now it's much more overt. Yeah. Before it was, we'll do it behind the closed doors.
Yeah, it's in your face now. Yeah.
Now it's out in the open. Everybody knows that these people are out to get the humanity, basically, because they're doing it all over the world.
Yeah.
And the people have to wake up and smile. And again, I'm saying 5G. People can talk about Corona till the cows come home, and I'm not gonna dispute it one way or the other, but I know that 5G is not doing us any good. And every day when I say my prayers, I say I want to end the Corona, I want to end the 5G, and I want people to wake up and say no more of this, because it's making us sick.
It
doesn't affect the elder that we go to visit a lot.
It did, well, we have an elder that we go and look after.
Yeah.
She's gonna be 86 next month, and she's in a wheelchair, so she's in a building, not in a nursing home, thank goodness for her, she was at the same thing,
She was in there, she might not have been.
But she has these PSWs coming through to tend to her, feed her and get her bathed and all that. And I was going over there all the time, I wasn't hugging her because I think she felt more, it was her choice. But, we go there and still, have some bodily contact, pat her on the back and all that. But one day, a couple weeks ago, she said, no, don't come. That's the fear had gotten to her.
Oh, yeah. She got CNN going at the house?
Yeah, news. All day long. That is her story.
No, that's CNN. That's CNN. Get you.
Yeah, that's CNN. But actually, she came back. She rallied the next day or the day after. She dropped by and she said, and
forget this.
Yeah.
I need you.
You know what? When you're old and you're sick and you don't really, when they tell you not to have any visitors, you believe them. It only gets worse. So this is nonsense, and they know this. You can't tell me as a medical professional, you're telling people like Christine's father. She can tell you her story. For 3 weeks, she didn't see the poor man before he passed away. Because his doctor told him not to have any, his own doctor. Yeah, his own people that he'd been living with. I think have big stories to tell you about that. Anyways, how you before?
Islam.
Yeah. It's been good. Oh, no, close to here. Good.
To add on to the people's own, I feel like they just don't want too much conscious mindset.
They
know what happens after when there's too many minds.
Hey, what are you
doing? Pretty much it.
Yeah, congregation, right?
Too much conscious mind.
The aspect of like getting things done by faith, maybe. When you have to separate that from the devices and like talking with social media. Though the social media has allowed the opportunity for more connection of like minds. It's still the tool that's like used against it. So to get away from that, it's so beneficial.
And obviously also because we don't have control over it. So I've noticed too, when like you're getting into something good, sometimes there'll be some sort of glitches. And like it's being overseen by someone else. You don't create the software yourself, it's not secure.
It's big money, and that's the business. They're in the business of information, so they pay for all the information so that they have the most control possible. They have the machines there to do the algorithms and the math. To make the outcomes as likely for them. So the more we be organic and we separate out the traceable things, the more work that can get done without being imposed.
That's the area of love of this material claim. You don't realize that everything.
It's like that. Every what they serving over there? You done, please. Any good, buddy? Good thanks,
I've
Mark.
been thankful. Like daycare's closed, school's closed. It's back to what me and her used to be doing. Every day, me and you. What's the day look like? All right, that's what we'll do.
Man said nothing. Move yourself, buddy. Hey, man said you owe nothing. Move yourself, yo. Trying to.
Listen,
it's here, finally. It's here. It's here. Could be worse.
I don't know. But that's true. It's given people a chance to slow down.
Yeah.
Because they had us, most of us running, and never having a chance to check in with yourself to see what's going on because you're so busy trying to make that machine go. You know what I mean? And I hope that people, now that they've had this few months or a few weeks or whatever where they were able to go into these places of, work and all that, they've had a chance to figure out how to live their life the way they want to. You know what I mean? Honest to goodness, of the way they want to live their lives, and as opposed to having to run this routine all day long.
I was gonna say though, Mocha, I think that's the narrative that they're trying to give you, but I have disagreed with that just from the perspective of this time off hasn't really been time off. Because in a sense, your mind's not free. It's not like someone said, here, we're gonna pay for you for this period of time.
So 3 months and then you could.
Take some time to get, no, what's happened is you've been under stress and anxiety and all this stuff. And to me, I agree, the surface of it would be, hey, you got time.
Yeah.
But really the reality is no, because a lot of us are gonna be coming out of this even worse than when we came in.
Yeah.
And that's where I see almost from a certain perspective, I would be happy, I came off with an operation, so for 3 months I was sitting around, and then all of a sudden there's no work, and then you have to worry about rent, you have to worry about this to me ain't no rest time. So that's why I've been very careful not to allow people to tell me, oh, well, you've got time for this. No, that's not time really, from my perspective at least. But I do see what you're saying. You do have time to take a little breath, but it really hasn't been all roses and whatever, because as I said, they're not supporting you on all the things that you need to be supported with. You still got to line up in lines. You know what I mean? Things that are even worse. You know, as I said, if they gave me the time off, I could walk into a store and I could do this and I could do that. Then yeah, that's something. But that's not what they're offering.
Well, let me qualify that. You're right, and that's not what they're trying to have us thinking about either. And I think maybe what I meant to say was, hopefully people have decided and understood that you're not going to get the help you need from your quote unquote government. You better look like, no, I'm serious.
No,
Yeah,
not
hold on,
right.
learn how to be a community. Learn how to be a community. Learn how to do what all these things that they have
Put all that
us.
water from the plant.
All these things that they're restricting us from, we should be thinking about how do we counter that in the future.
Yeah,
why don't we have our own grocery stores?
Right.
Yes.
Why don't we have our own farmland?
Yes.
Why don't we have our own schools? Why don't we have all of these things? We're supposed to have them.
Have those, yeah.
We're supposed to have them, and if this doesn't show us that, then we are doomed. We ain't never gonna get it.
Mocha, but that's why I started that, and I hear what you're saying. That's why, for me, exactly what you're saying, right? Even if you do want to do something, you can't go and do it. Don't you get it? So the time that they've given you off really isn't that time to go do your schools, to go do those things. So that's why I agree with you. It totally puts that in perspective, but it's not allowing you to do anything. You're sort of tentatively locked in your house, and if you go outside, you might get arrested. If you go outside, you might die. So I'm saying, so to me, it's those things. I do agree with you that this should be what it is about giving us that impetus to get there. Right?
Well, okay, I hear you, but we're here.
Yeah,
we're here, and so we are countering that to some degree.
Yes.
Because they're telling us not to come here,
Yeah.
not to congregate, not to do this and that. We're still here anyway.
And for all those people who are chasing the buffalo and never get to see their family or whatever, I see so many people walking down the street, you know, that I've never seen before in our neighborhood. Like, you live here?
I know.
So I think the time is it's the balance of the two. It's not like it's the one and not the other. It's both of them. Because we have our work to do, but it's like we've been given the space to do it, but at the same time not. We're still getting bombarded with all that in our program. But the point is that divinely, this is still kind of less than like them direct. Like they're putting the whole assault together, like it's getting to that point, but it's the quiet part of it, the silence of the storm per se, where we have the movement to still, because they say, oh, you'll get a ticket, you're this or that, but like I've been under road like every single day since then, not like I haven't. So I see them less. Maybe it's just my whatever, but I see them less, and so now their movements and they're opening back up because they're getting the business going, then that aspect of it's gonna come out, because in order to top people up and top ups on the frontline workers, like for them to have the same amount or more, we just increase the debt so much because they get paid so much. So on top of it, a certain percentage, all of a sudden they're getting paid so much more, and there's less people. So it doesn't even make any sense. So we give the space to actually move about, and then if we're being questioned by somebody, the questioning is so fine to the point where it's to be proven that it doesn't make sense. If you're gonna say it's an emergency, it's social distance, like, and we're doing our thing, we're separate from you, then that's what it is. You're gonna leave it. Now, how are you all of a sudden get more people again? It just doesn't add up. So I get where we're coming from, and what you're saying is true, more so. I need to see like that it's a balance that we have.
Yeah,
Just that
exactly.
We have balance.
Very much so. So we're asking people how this has affected them, this whole COVID isolation fiasco.
I'll say that my space in my life hasn't changed much at all, with the exception of going different places or not having the same places to go.
But also taking on a new medium for your profession and bring your teachings to a different platform.
Well, yes, but it's also shifted how I view what I do and where I'm actually wanting to spend my energy in that realm moving forward. So it has shifted in that way, but my everyday life is the same as far as the energy goes. It's like I'm watching this movie and it's a real life movie and you just watch it every day. It's a little bit different, and then, you know, I reach out and I hear people who are doing the CNN thing on a daily basis and you just, oh, really?
I know, eh?
Is that what's happening in the world? Fantastic. Yeah, it's just a movie. I actually find it kind of comical for the most part.
It's funny. It's funny how many politicians and celebrities have said, I've got home. You know what I mean? It's like you're looking for your 15. Pray for me, y'all. Pray for me.
Yeah, Patrick Ewing got it. All of a sudden, like, no, Patrick Ewing just got it.
Oh, you something that they got this virus.
Yeah.
It's a shame that it shows how many people are so deeply asleep.
Yeah.
That's really the most.
Asleep.
From it is recognizing how many people, no matter how woke they claim to be or whatever, you know, frequency they're on, they're still very much asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Very much asleep. Like 98%.
Yeah.
I find that to be a little bit tragic.
Mm-hmm.
Because of material, everything. They put something in your face, make you believe you want it. Now you want, you have it. You get that little joy.
My son said to me, when he was using his tablet, and I've never really had those things in my home at all. We had them in his father's house. And other family members who can use their electronics, but just never. I don't have a television. I don't do electronics in my home. We have a laptop, but I use it.
Yeah.
So he got a tablet for the holiday last year and from my mother. And I didn't set it up until this quarantine happened. He begged me, please. So I said, okay, fine. You can have your tablet. So I let him use it, and within a week, he was like, I said, okay, it's time to turn it off. This is neat. I don't want to stop using it. He said, well, unfortunately, you're going to have to stop using it. We've already, taken the time that we've allotted in the day for you to use this electronic, or do something else now. He says, well, why did you even give it to me if I had to stop using it? Well,
yeah, why did I give it to you?
Stop using it. He goes, why did they even make these things? What's the point of them even making this machine? It's like, I don't want to feel like this. And I said, well, that's exactly why.
I didn't give it in the first place.
Because you have to be wise enough to know
The
that
mastermind.
That's what it will elicit from you. It's addictive behavior.
No, your limit.
Exactly. And I said, you're a child. And I can't help you to learn that without you experiencing yourself. So, there you go. Now we know.
Yeah.
That's the part I find that is like, it's hard and it's frightening. People don't know. It's like you have these seemingly healthy human beings walking the earth. You leave them in quarantine for 2 months, and now everybody's mad. Like, crazy.
No, not over either.
No, just appear. The illness is not, you know,
The only way to wake people from their lethargy is for people to stop making shows and movies. When they can't get anything on Netflix, that's when they'll start to wake up.
For real.
Yeah, I like her.
She's on Instagram doing hair tutorials.
Oh my goodness.
I watched this one. This is an anomaly. Like, this woman is so untouchable to so many people, and she's on Instagram doing hair tutorials, just like, you know, the next girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know,
That's supposed to be for the independent.
Yeah. But it could also be a thing of those people using this opportunity to jack all that stuff that used to be, you know,
Independent.
grassroots
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
You know what I mean?
well,
Oh,
they have
come on.
to, they want to stay out there.
Yeah.
They want to be in people's, you know, I had the opportunity to now
Yeah.
speak her name, and it exists now in Israel.
Yeah.
You know, it keeps them relevant.
Yeah.
Good for you that you don't have that in your home. I mean,
Well, I do now.
I mean, but, yeah. But it's horrible. It's very addictive. It's very counterproductive for these children. It's horrible, because that's what they want, all day, every day. And taking pictures of themselves all day. Like, what kind of nonsense is that?
Hours.
Our grandparents never had a camera. We don't know what they look like. Our great grandparents. And these people have thousands of pictures of everything in their lives. I gotta take a selfie. I gotta do a food. I gotta do this now. Nobody really cares.
That's like the word mind. That's what the mind is. The word.
That's right.
Yeah. Idle mind.
You get a massive overload of information. You have access to information and like millions of senses, right? So it's addictive. And so the issue is you get something new, you really can't get what you're supposed to get from it. That's what it usually like that's.
But it embraces your creativity, number one. And it dumbs you down. You don't need to do math, here's a calculator. You don't need to spell, here's spell check. You don't need grammar, here's grammar.
You don't need to spend time with friends, here's a chat room.
And when you're all walking together down the street, you were all talking to somebody else on the phone or texting somebody else. You know, they don't have any creativity. They're taking away the creativity.
Absolutely.
They're taking away the God self from these people. That's what it's all about. Take it away from them so that we could really get them. You know, send some message over YouTube or whatever it is they're watching and have them all do exactly what you want them to do. And they'll do it because they don't know any better.
Speaking on that, I actually got so bored to a point that I actually stopped myself. Like, what would they do? What would they watch? I was thinking, what would they do? Because I was bored. It was 2 weeks ago. I was bored out of mind.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what's something. Okay, all right, we'll do it. What kind of shit do I thought, so I remember this on Instagram, I went to your page, I saw Bobby Henry.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Bobby Henry.
So
I'm sitting there writing about this. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna buy that book. And that book. That's why when we had the hugs, I just pulled it out.
Yeah.
that's what we should be doing all this time.
And then again, when I was younger, my parents would be like, when you're bored, you go to what do I do? They tell me,
What's that? A book?
Yeah.
Draw a picture, you know?
It's a certain eeriness that, you know, like you know you're awake. Like the way it's so quiet, like the way you feel like because people are so mindless and there's not so much creation going on, you can manifest it. Like, for example, sometimes I don't wait in line, I'm just walking.
Oh, yeah.
Often is like constantly.
And more times, that's how I feel it, but it's not out of a negative emotion. It's just, this is what I'm creating. Nobody has an issue with that. And I'm not thinking about somebody telling me some sort of house.
I'm not stopping at your door.
Sometimes I drove by the COVID.
No stopping, yo. No stopping. Straight in. No, you're not gonna get me.
Walmart. A guy was there on his phone, just like that. You know, I'm standing there. It was like 8 corners from that day, and I'm just sitting on. I see this guy. So I walk in, and I come behind him, and I'm like scared because I came behind him. Sorry, I'm late. You know what I mean? Thanks for the job, man. I walk in and I'm the boss. People who was there at their post, like people inside, outside. They didn't say nothing. They thought I worked there. They're so in
their own, yeah.
I'm gonna try that. Sorry, I'm late. I just walked in.
Sorry, I'm late.
Security they hired to like let people in. He's one of those guys. Doesn't have a shirt on.
Yeah, but all of these businesses that have us waiting, we don't need them, they need us.
Yeah.
But if people would understand that and say, I'm not waiting in no line, either you're letting me in or I'm going someplace else.
They'll let them in quick fast.
Would be over.
They'll let them in quick fast.
You know, it's not.
Well, come on in. Just make sure you social distance inside.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we're so dependent on this thing. We think you know, they have the power. So we give them the power. It's not space. You know, it's time for us to take back the power.
I was just in the house and I was like looking around like I have a lot of crap. I have crap I don't need. That's just a bunch of crap.
Yeah, you realize stuff in quarantine.
No, because I'm reading the books that I'm thinking like, wow, I got crap. Okay, all right.
Sure.
We create, like we all create. So our energy and frequency that's obviously a higher frequency than everybody else out there is not the same level. That's energy, no matter what that's created. So our powers are supposed to be used to put the vision to make people see what to show them only by meeting. Because people care about, we are the ones who fund all these corporations and businesses. So and a lot of these corporations are just comprised of people. So the people are caring what people are doing. And they eventually somebody, even though we're telling them what they really should be caring about studying, you don't want to hear it, at some point they're just want to do it. So every time until you get it, until you know, like you should call me, ask me or something. And then I'll say, all right, so that's what every time I go to society, I'm going through this, every single time I've already been inconvenienced, I gotta wait outside or whatever. Everybody is gonna hear something. Everybody gonna know something. I figured out, so I don't know, just like, or whatever, but everybody feels like, oh, you're anyways, standing in line, so.
I think it's a matter of frequency and holding your own frequency. It's not even, it's like you said, leading by example. Sometimes there's not any action besides being, you know? So it's like just holding the mind state, holding the frequency is what's necessary as well. You're not gonna be able to verbally, extend your mind space to another person. They're in their own situation. So it's like just being there as energy, like attracts like, so if they're gonna find a way, something within them that resonates with your frequency, then they will. And if not, they just bounce off and they go flying into the hurricane. We'll see what we do.
And I found that like if you stay away from the bigger box stores, you always have better luck. Like there was one point when I needed some wipes. And I just went into my local and standing right on the top shelf was one like family pack of the wipes that I usually get. And I was like, haha, short people, like this was for me. And then I needed some vitamins for her. I was running out. And I had gone to the big box store and they're like, well, we don't carry those anymore. And I was like, they got discontinued? They're like, no, we just sold out of them. So I'm like, okay, there's nothing wrong with it, whatever. And I had this dream of this local like pharmacy woman. She has like a little spot near main station. And she was like, come, I knew you'd come. I've been waiting for you. I've got these for you. And I was like, okay. So the next day I went, I told her about my dream. She laughed because she didn't send it. But there was like 3 of the things that I was looking for right there, And when we went shopping last, we went to another little store that's not like, like if you go anywhere that's surrounded by high rise or anything like that, I feel so sorry for the people who live there because it's completely overshopped. So it's just about finding those little local guys that have been doing their thing and not getting recognized.
Yeah.
That's what the West as turned by here, going by here, the West Indies.
Yeah, yeah. Those little spots too, but those get hit up because people can't get their rice and peas seasoning anywhere else.
Yeah.
And that's the only place I can get the Dettol.
There's been
Yeah,
line
that's the
up
only
there.
place you can find Dettol.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Well,
Yeah.
really, I started going to and I started working
Print
on
it.
radio for like 10 years.
Oh, okay.
You know, and when first started getting on the Grace products and more.
Yeah.
That's because they went over there.
And they saw that they were making a good little
Well,
business.
they outsourced the business people, right?
Yeah.
I didn't do it.
Yeah.
That's what I learned. So,
Where you want?
Anyone see it?
No,
No,
just-
Jersey.
Oh, actually, keep us there.
Yeah, there's next year a little box.
The last article, brave new normal. I'm talking about actual bona fide fascism or totalitarianism, if you want to get technical. The kind where governments declare a global state of emergency on account of a virus with a 0.2 to 0.6% lethality, locks everyone down inside their homes, suspends their constitutional rights, terrorizes them with propaganda, unleashes uniformed goon squads on anyone who doesn't comply with their despotic decrees. You had something, Omar?
No, I was just gonna wonder why. The question I was just gonna ask is where, one of the things, as I said, you were talking about this earlier, they seem to have stopped talking about certain things now that they've gotten the foundation down. Now that we believe that this is happening, we don't even have to go back into how this happened, why it happened. They're still sort of trying to push a narrative that it's these Chinese that brought it in, but one of the things that I want us, and you were talking about this too, there's a man who's got his mask on his beard and stuff like that, as if that's, they tell you too as well, right? Once you bring the mask down and put it here.
It's useless once you bring it back up. Yeah.
Once you take it off, once you put your finger behind here, it's done. So all of this stuff, like her, when she's got her nose out like that, it's done. So it's craziness, but what are we going to do? Because I think one of our issues is that, and I was hearing you say this more, that we sort of are at this higher level. One of the things that I caution myself about doing is not getting too high on myself. Just because I know more doesn't mean I still don't have to go do some hard work. Just show me certain things. Like my Empress, for example, she works at the hospital. She's able to go in past any line. When I'm going there, she says, "No, I'm not going in. I'm not in a rush. I'm not going to go in front of people." And I look at her and I'm pissed because I got to sit in this line now. But wait a minute. But I respect her from the perspective that she's honoring the process on a certain level. And I think that we have to, if we really want to look at our rising, it's really about us getting some space for ourselves. How are we going to do this? What are we going to do? Mocha, you talk about the computers and all this stuff. This is some of my dreams. We need to have, and I've tried to do this with my Empress's offspring. We need to have a day where we turn off the TV, turn off the computers, put the phones away. You know what I'm saying? We talk a lot, but I sense a lot of times when it actually comes down to the hard work, we are, we sort of, I just feel that there's a little bit of and that's some of the stuff that I think we have to sort of get over. That I think I was saying this to you before, that we're going to have to dig some ditches. It's not going to be talking our way out of this. And I think that hard work is hard work. And a lot of us, most of us don't want to do that. But what it's going to take for us to get where we need to do is going to be a lot of hard work. And so I just want to remind us of that really we should be looking at, because they're already talking about this. They may open up the gates a little bit for the summer. But come September again, they could be locking us all back down again. So to me, this would be like the trumpet blast for us, really looking at how we are going to not allow this to happen to us again. Because you can say that you can walk by in a line, but there may be a time, and who knows, the way we're acting now, the next time they might actually have soldiers on the street,
Well, if it's good, they would.
right?
In
So,
the supermarket.
you know, Mocha, you and I talked about this. The only way that we're gonna be able to protect that stuff, and you know, the same thing you talk about going to a grocery store. They may have guys with guns at the grocery store. The next time you try that, they may lock you up, right? So the deal to me is, like, you know, like my brother here, we need to get some farming going. We need to, you know, we need to have our bunker with our toilet paper, because you know we gotta wipe our butts, right? So, and that's the most important thing, not even eating, right? We need to make sure we got some toilet paper. I just think that we sort of, one of the things I'm worried about is that we become, and this is one of the things that I've seen, we become very complacent, and we also, this is one of the beautiful things about us, and one of the detrimental things about us. We are very, very incredibly, we have an incredible ability to be adaptive, but that works against us, because within a couple of weeks they've got us all tied into sitting around for months and months on end. So it's not a big deal. Oh, another month? Oh, okay. Another this, whatever. You know what I mean? And to me, Carlos Castaneda said it best, that he loves stubborn people, because when a stubborn person gets something, those are the type of people you want, because they're gonna stay with it. Like you say, if people decide I'm not going to the grocery store, they're going to open the grocery store up, right? But the issue is that, oh, okay, well, if I need to get, I'm worried, I can't get my, I need to line up for my toilet paper. Okay, I'm lined up. Once that happens, it's over, right? So I just want us to continue at, especially in this point, to really start looking at the bigger picture and what we as a nation need to do. As I said, funny how you notice I haven't heard anything about Sweden. You hear anything about Sweden?
Or North Korea.
Huh? Or North Korea for that matter, who did none of the lockdown stuff, right? How come we're not hearing about how half of Sweden's dead? How come we're not?
Because half of them are dead.
Well, we laugh about it, and then, as I said, that's part of what I see too. It's like there's that uncomfortableness that, you know, we know something's wrong. But then, as I said, you go talk to someone, and this is what I was going to say to you too. You got to be careful about trying to put your stuff on people too who actually believe in this. Because Taj said it the best. You know, you're going to go tell some black person that he's not black, he's going to want to kill you. You know, so we all, yeah. So I just think that this to me is much more what the prophet's talking about. This is the sign for us to really start to get together, and you know, maybe look 100 kilometers north, and they'll get some farmland and set up a community. They have Latter-day Saints. They have a town that's set up for this. When ground zero happens, they move out to this town. They got street, they got grocery store, they got electricity, whatever. Here we are. We're supposed to be, watch, we're supposed to be the kings and queens. Yet what? We're waiting for a CERB payment or something, right? Sir, whatever it is.
Reserve.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But I just, you know, as I said, but I think that that's the other part to it, that the alternative or the reality behind it is so oppressive that I think it makes us shut down as well.
That's where again would be just like you're talking about with certain people having their whatever set up. You know, we're behind the curve, because we've been supposed to have our stuff set up that it wouldn't even be an issue if anything goes down, whatever it is. So, like you're saying, it's us recognizing where we're at this point, and that you know certain things need to be taken into high consideration.
Sorry, just to sort of panel back on what I was saying. It's like we're like really all of us should be running out of here now to start, you know, figuring out what to do. But instead, you know, we're going to go and sort of, you know, don't worry, things are going to be all right. That's all part of it too, where they sort of got you sort of, you know, things aren't that bad yet. You know what I mean? Liquor stores are still open. We can still get our pot.
Essential service.
Huh? Well, yeah. But you see, we laugh because if they shut that liquor store down, you see it's a real shit. You know what I'm saying? So they know what they're doing. But I'm saying that we then fall prey to that because I'm not denying I don't got my six-pack too. You know what I'm saying? Just in a joking way, but I'm just saying I was quite aware of what's really happening here. They're playing games with us, they're probing us, you know what I mean? They're seeing exactly how much they can get away with. And at this point, I think that they've stepped well over that line. And you know, and this is what I was going to speak to this. They've allowed themselves the latitude to say that it's not really them who shut us down. It's really some doctor who's told. Well, it's on the doctor's consultation that we're shutting this down. Well, you're two people. It's the doctor and the doctor. No, it's Ford and the rest of these guys are saying on the advice of my counsel, on the advice of my expert medical staff, that we should shut this down. Well, at this point, I'll tell you who needs to lose their job: the doctor and Ford. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But you know, Ford and these guys, it's really funny how they worked it, right? Because they have been able to sort of keep themselves in an unassailable position. They're just doing what the doctor told us. Right? I think that we have to be worried about that.
Yeah.
Who is the doctor? Doctor.
So wild. I'm sorry.
Notice how the whole thing with having a family over and it's on TV and it's like we even found out about that to even bring it up on the media.
Who?
Even bring forward with him bringing over his family.
I didn't hear about it, but what about Trudeau who went to the vacation where we were all
things like that.
It's crazy.
He left the country?
No, he went to his cottage. He was supposed to go to their cottage, and the wife was posting on social media how they were all playing around the cottage while everyone else was stuck at home and they were going to be fine if they went to the cottage.
No, but remember that's not their cottage. That's the Canadian Prime Minister governmental cottage. Because remember, he's doing all the stuff from there.
That works.
Yeah, so
he's working.
The cottage was his cottage, bro. That was his personal cottage that he messed off to. That's if he was sitting up at his little camp, that would be one thing. But on the weekend when everyone was supposed to be at home, they went off to their cottage in Montreal, and then stupidly she was posting all of her stuff.
Oh, for real? Wow.
So just to show you, that shows you the level of contempt that they have for us. All right? And you know, we're just finally seeing this Tory guy finally wearing a mask. But everyone, you see everyone else, and I don't know if you see, that's why I say you gotta watch these. They have Ford there every day. The Minister of
whoever it is, and nobody's wearing masks or nothing.
So he's asking a question, and then one of the, and I'm sure they've got these people that are all sort of screwed up. Right? Never allowing us to ask a question. These questions. And so Ford's up there, and they say, I want to ask Minister Freeland a question. So then he gets up, he turns around and walks. And as he walks right by her. Just like this.
No social distancing. What?
So I just thought, but I was wondering the same thing when they had those people who were like doing the sign language behind them. Like even if they're not talking, like, shouldn't they be a little further?
No, I get one here.
Okay, We'll print it up. We're gonna print it up right now.
That's what I mean. You're not supposed to be wearing a mask for that long. It would just show how silly. Even when you for work, when you wear like a respirator, there's a fight. It's not for that long.
Right? Because you're breathing your own carbon monoxide. And it's lessening it.
Never mind the bacteria.
Yeah.
Even about zero, not
I watched the video of watching a line of people using those masks. Masks were folded up on the floor.
It's
going, maybe like 30 in a minute, but it's just everywhere.
That's just an example of them.
It's industrious. It's not good.
That's an example.
Yeah, exactly.
That's an example of them taking an example of us because they know our minds. Because look, everything comes from China. Right? Everything comes from China.
Well, that's why they didn't shut it down to begin with. While they're saying that the Chinese are the ones that are bringing us all this crazy. That's what I'm telling you.
So it's another example. We're going to continue buying it, regardless of what the media says or what people are saying. They're still going to have a large percentage of people buying. That's just what I'm
Well, they don't know what else to get them as well. where else do you go? You go on Amazon, wherever, and you order it and it comes and that's where it's at.
Wanga, holy, Wanga.
I think it can, but it's, I guess it's.
It's
I wasn't here earlier, but I'm wondering, if we're all still trying to stay like in Canada? Oh, okay. It's okay. Okay, in this cold environment then, are we still, is there a plan to, I mean, there's no safe place, but if there's a lockdown and there's a problem, there's no lights and all the other stuff. Food is, scarce or line up for food. It's harder to survive here than if you decide to go to a warmer climate. I'm not saying the same thing's not gonna happen here, but you have a better chance of surviving in a warmer climate. So I don't know if that was mentioned.
Sorry, ma'am, sorry, what did you say?
I said, are we gonna stay in this cold environment? Are you guys thinking about leaving to go to some kind of Caribbean or warmer? Survival rate is a little bit lower here than if you were in somewhere hot. You can survive. You could, you don't have to worry about the.
I understand what you're saying.
I mean, it's still going to be a lockdown, but your chances of surviving is a little bit higher if you're somewhere warmer opposing to somewhere,
I understand what you're saying based on climate, definitely. But the only thing that I'd say is the principles of where you're speaking, because most other places are under occupation also, right? And to different degrees of lack of liberty, to say the least, right?
Well, I would say this to the sister there, sorry, no, who you gonna say something?
No, I'm just saying, it was once, North America was once a tropical place, right? So you gotta look at that too, right?
The other thing I was saying, that they were also saying that, and this is what I'm saying, that we have real issues here, because they were also saying that the virus will survive in cold weather either, right? So, maybe it'd be better if we were sitting here in winter.
I thought it was warm, but.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I'm saying, it's cold, it's cold.
It's both extremes.
But then I was talking to
You can't give me both two extremes.
The best part is who've digested it and agreed with it and accepted it, and then slowly, week by week, they're like, I don't know, I just feel confused. Yeah, I'm confused, huh? Interesting. It's like slowly they're starting to just not feel like there's any basis to what they're living. There's no foundation at all.
But I think what the issue is that because we've allowed them to get to this point right now, because we've allowed them to get to this point, and as I said, at this point, Ford should be running for his life. So should Trudeau. Those guys should be hiding out somewhere in a bush right now because of this madness. Because we've allowed this to happen. Because we've allowed this to happen, this is just a stepping stone. And so really what's going to be most important to me is how, Kudo said this best, because at the beginning when this all happened, I wanted the temple to stay open.
Yeah.
I was pushing for that. We had huge arguments, not arguments, but just sort of discussions, and I acquiesced from the perspective of we didn't know what was going on. So let's, for the fear of whatever, let's say, here we are 9 weeks later, we've all locked ourselves. I don't know if anyone's died or, I'm waiting to hear the numbers. There should be, we should hear about something, hopefully we'll hear about Cameron's dead or something. Anyway, COVID, right? The issues that they've already got us to flinch.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. How do we, and this is what I'm getting at. Now, when things start to stabilize, but as you notice, they're not, an unawakened war said to me, you gotta be very careful because these people, when they get power, they very much don't want to give it up. Yeah. And at this point, you notice it. Nothing is being given back as it should be. Oh, okay, do this. Oh, now they're saying they're trying to force you to wear masks.
Just turn it off and turn it off.
Yeah,
but I know everybody, I know it's good, but now,
so the deal being is that, as I said, they loosen off for the summer. give everyone the summer off and to make a little bit of finance. And then, as I said, I was saying to these guys this morning, this is really big pharma. This is all.
Yeah, because that vaccine's gonna be expensive, trust me.
I don't want it.
I don't want to.
A whole bunch of people do, trust me.
But you understand this too, they make it to places where they're gonna say, depending on, and this is what we're talking about the bigger picture, if you're working in a certain organization, I've already hearing this to talk about Apple. Apple opening up now, you wanna go to the Apple store, they're gonna be testing you at the door, right? And if you have a fever or anything, you're not being allowed in. That's just the tip of the iceberg.
What about people who just have a general higher? My son is at least 2 degrees more warm than any other human I've
He
ever.
wakes up from a nap, she sweats in her sleep.
And like in general, his head would be literally 3 or 4 degrees different from his cheek. And I can't tell his temperature from his cheek. If his head feels warm, I check his cheek because I know unless they're alive, then he doesn't have he doesn't have a hot head. You know what I mean? So it's like it just seems ridiculous. I don't know.
So sister, you're asking us just to say, sister, you're asking us where would we go? We're not looking to go anywhere. We're looking to try and create, well, there's nowhere to go, we're home. So the deal is for us to create a sort of a jurisdiction that we can construe as ours, that we can live in, and be able to sort of self-determine. The same way sort of that the so-called Indians have their sort of land. Not to say that this really should be ours, but we understand the situation we're in. But what I'm seeing as Mocha and I were talking about this, there should be 500 acres somewhere, an hour north, where each person should have a little cabin with a little quarter of an acre. We all sign off on it. When this shit hits the fan, you pack your car up, you pack your family up, you head up there. We have all of our stuff running. We got our power, we got our food, and we can wait while this madness goes. While we continue to work on getting other stuff together.
So what would happen if you had people who thought they were black to start saying they're African?
Saying or being.
Saying, at least saying, if they stop saying they're black and they start saying they're African.
What do you mean, to be up there?
Okay, yeah, well, yeah, there's that. Well, because, like, all these situations are happening, and then, people who are not gonna who are gonna promote a story, gonna have a story, they're gonna go to the same people who like, I'm going to CNN with the whole foods, and so they're owning their story, like, so that whole thing's gonna be going on, but like, there's gonna be those who, it's like, we can't be there for everybody, but we already know of the circumstances that there's gonna be, like, situations that are gonna happen.
About saving others, I'm not understanding your answer.
I'm saying like, having a counter, that's in line with our mission, that's in line with the mission of the problem, that's the plan, so, we know that these are the circumstances that we're gonna face and that, you know what I mean, so we should be prepared, because, okay, they're gonna feel like this, and then you think, oh, here, okay, this is usually not, okay, now we know, like, to prepare something in rank or whatever, that, the same way, everybody's on their COVID, you go to every website, every business registered for corpses, and they got someone who says, oh, because of COVID, like, when it first started rolling out, the same way I see that is the same way,
Yeah, what about?
we already know kind of what's gonna happen in terms of, like,
Then you get into the realm of, I mean, saving everybody, it's not really our responsibility to come into this. It's their responsibility, they're the God, they're the God, right? So it's like, I think that there has to be space to catch them, but not to necessarily do things for them.
say like that could be the net, where it's like, it's not exactly what we want, but it's towards what we want, and towards the plan that we draw, whereas like, now they gotta deal with people calling themselves Aboriginal indigenous, like, now they gotta deal with the fact that level, that class is no longer, it's such a smaller class. Where people are gonna see that it somehow, because it's towards the right direction, gets them away from the treatments that black
They're
people.
gonna see the difference in the gravity.
Yeah, just as a seed plant, while we're working with the tree, waiting for fruit to then plant that seed.
I think that social media is doing a great job of that. There's a whole lot of conversation there that's not being had 3-4 months ago. In general, in every subject, yeah, not just this paradigm, but all paradigms. So I feel like that's already happening. I feel like it's more of a, I always go back to the frequency, I always go back to the energy. Energy is attractive, that's what energy does, it attracts other energy like itself. So all you have to do is be, and the people that are supposed to be aligned with this will be aligned.
It's like water, it always finds its level, right?
Exactly. It's not a matter of, it's like, that's like the old paradigm. We figure out what their problem is and we provide it for them. We provide what do you call it, a solution for them before they even know they have the problem. I think everybody needs to run into the problem. Like at this point, if you're not hitting a wall in your consciousness, then there's no way you can even jump to this frequency anyway. That's true. You know what I mean? It's like there has to be that resistance for you to be like, no, there has to be another way. So it's kind of like, it's necessary, I feel, to have that aspect of not really doing it for, you know, it's here. This is the infrastructure, this is what we've created, but it's up to you to align yourself with what's actually here.
So but that's what I'm saying. That's like what you just said. Is then you have to say when they this, when they that, when they this, because you this or whatever you said to me, then you already know where I'm at. Like this is what you should be doing because we can't tell them everything because it's a lot. But when they this, and that, because we know that's gonna happen. Then here this is.
I understand what you're saying because there's a lot of ways to get distracted. Even though social media does provide a forum, it also provides a lot of distraction also. Like, you know, a lot of people who are woke will have a quarter of the information, but we'll be looking at the full picture and we'll get trapped in that, you know, until they ask the right questions.
And you're following
to find
doctrines and
exactly
yeah.
the right answer.
Just want to say to all you boys, I'm glad that you social distance on your signature too. Just noticing how before COVID, we were signing on every line. We were signing on every line. Thank you very much. Please, I'd like 2 lines between each signature.
Five pages. 5 pages.
We're all signing on every line, and then everyone's on every other line. What's going on here?
You know what it's all, you guys don't have your mask on.
That's
You know
right.
what's going
Well,
on.
if anyone feels anyways, we got some.
We have to no.
I see Khalid though. Khalid was doing no. Khalid signed. He signed the second one.
So it's a matter of having people.
One of the things, just to touch on, one of our issues that I feel, I think one of our duties is to make. We are all gods in the flesh. A lot of us lowered ourselves to the level of being sheep, where we're listening. I think one of the problems that we're not going to be able to overcome is making everyone a shepherd. It's going to be hard because we just took away the indoctrination.
Well, that's the scout. That's the Boy Scout.
In terms of what you're saying, that
add that to that.
yeah, fair enough. But what I'm saying is part of our thing is I agree from a certain sense that when we, like you were saying, sister, that it's really about everyone getting to that level. One of my perspectives is I think for the most part we see that. That's why we've only got so many people here. But a lot of people have just relegated themselves to being sheep. But as a shepherd, we should still, nature, I keep using this term, nature said that if tomorrow, for you to get your check, you have to be a Moor, everyone would be a Moor tomorrow.
Yeah, but you'll be massaging them the whole way in. You have to hold their hand, and that's the part that doesn't really work. Because in holding their hand, you lower yourself vibrationally, immediately that's
That is part of what I was thinking about this yesterday. What is this movement really about? The movement really about is getting everyone to get back to their nationality. That's what the movement's about. Whether you choose to be about it or not is one thing. That's why this place is open every Sunday, because hopefully you come through here being an unawakened Moor, and then we sort of hopefully, because remember, you're still a Moor, you're just unawakened.
Yeah.
And then the process is to get you to be awakened more. But the issue is that a lot of us don't want to take that. As I said, if you said go right to get water, you're going to go right to get water. So the deal being, the concept of being a Moor isn't the issue. It's really the concept of getting some of these people is convincing the people that that's the way to go. Whether they take it or not, we know what we're doing is for their betterment. Though we would want everyone to be able to be a grand chief and everyone to have a temple. That's really what the movement was about. Each one of us should have a temple. Each one of us should have thousands of people, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, a lot of people cannot get to that level. So one of our duties would be to get to that level.
I have a question. Before you continue, and that is, you said that it is about, bringing nationality to people, and I agree with that, obviously, but I think that it's also important and imperative to take a look at it from the perspective of it's not just, I don't believe the movement is only nationality. I believe divinity is, it's hand in hand. They move together. It's not one without the other. So the way that you actually reach the people is with the divine side of things. That's the frequency, that's the energy. What you teach them when they walk through the door is nationality. And that's why it's so important it's not just being here and learning and, having the conversations, but it's also going within yourself and figuring out what's happening with you. That's what we're being gifted in all of this quarantine. And it's like people are having the opportunity to face themselves. They don't have anywhere else to look. And
They
that's
do.
what
They have the internet and the TV. That's what they're
there's
saying.
only so much, that's what I'm saying. The ones who are doing that will do that, and they'll stay asleep, and they'll perish in whatever way they perish, and as much time as it takes them to perish. And those who aren't will find the frequency in their own way and step through the doors, and then you can give them what they're coming here for. But I think that it's important to put as much energy and effort and thought and into both. It's a dual system. We live in a dual system. That's its creation is dual. You can't only look at one aspect and not both.
I think you made a fine point. Because the prophet told us from day one, it's a divine and national. You can't have one without the other. It doesn't work, So, yeah, definitely. It is a whole lot about frequency. It's not on the right frequency. You're never going to get yourself to the point where you're even the least bit interested in
You can be
nationality.
in this room and not be on
Yeah, that's true.
So we need more projections and we need more maps. You know what I mean? Like, this is the plan, that's the plan. Because if we already had a task for, I got a task to do. I know that I got a task. So I know I got to do it now for other tasks. But for like a youth, tasks are fun. So if the task is already there, then they can do it. And even that could be the Boy Scout, Girl Scout.
But that's the thing, is do our youth really need to go and learn algebra right now? Or do they need to learn how to meditate? Do they need to go and?
Both are more science.
Both, I agree, but what are they in
What's
need
the
of
time? Yeah.
right now? Because they're so disconnected on one aspect and oversaturated in another. There's no balance between the two. So you can give them as much algebra as you want, but they're never going to do anything with it besides what the box tells them they're allowed to do.
True.
If you don't give them the opportunity to know themselves and then, to move forward with their algebra from there. So.
That's wrong. Leave those bags alone.
So next Sunday, we're gonna be doing our forest walk, getting out of the temple, being in nature. That's gonna be on Sunday. We it's $6 for the what's the admission or whatever, $6.
It's called the Canaanland Forest Conservation Area. You go online and check it out, but one of my European friends who, anyways, there's a spot out there just outside of Newcastle or Gomerville, if anyone sort of knows going that way. I think it's 2,000 acres, but it's a beautiful area. I was out there a couple weeks ago and just parking my conveyance, walking 30 feet in, or well, about maybe about 100 yards in. There was just such a a feeling of relief and calm that I felt that I had to share with the temple, as well as what we're doing here right now. In certain ways, we could be having serious problems here right now. Certain individuals want to make a deal about how we're even gathering here. So, yeah, and all that kind of stuff. And because, as I said, we're talking about divine and stuff, but this is still national. There's still a corporate entity that created this thing. If my landlord was here last week, we only had about 4 or 5 people, but if he was here this week, there may have been some major issues. They may, who knows? What Kuj was telling me is there's something, what did he call, some $100,000 fine and a year in jail? That could be the result of this. As I said, I never wanted this place to close at all. That was my understanding. But that's what I mean. You sort of capitulate on a certain level, and then all of a sudden, you're closed for 8 weeks. But anyways, one of the things I felt, and this is where they're at right now, is that we can go outside and be outside because they say that that's way less of a risk. And I also think for all of us that have been sitting inside for months on end, I'm telling you this, we'll talk about this the week afterwards, but so next week we're going to the Canaanland Conservation Area. I phoned up. Me and my boy, when we go in there on our motor vehicles, we wouldn't get any passes or anything. But my concern is that in this place in time right now, if they have people coming through there, obviously it's our land, they claimed it, there could be issues. So what they do is for children, there's no charge, but for adults it's $6 for the day. So I've got a list starting, and what we're doing is that anyone who can't afford the $6, the Worst Culture Club will cover that. Open as you can. We're going to be meeting at Kuzo at the Canaanland Center next Sunday. I'd like to say around 10:30, leaving by 11, here by 12. I'd like people to put their names, first and last, first names, their appellations. Their appellation here. I will then phone in the next day or so and get these passes. They'll send them to me on the computer, and then we'll meet next week and we'll go and have a wonderful time outside.
So we're good.
No, I was talking to the lady on the phone and she said that I could just, well, I was talking to the lady, so maybe there's a difference, we'll figure that out. Huh? Well, I'm talking about, I called the lady who's actually inside. No, what she said is that I could, well, if I knew everyone's name, then I could call up and pay for it, and then she would send me the passes online. Not me per se, but any one of us. Every individual doesn't have to have a conveyance to get the pass. Right. See what I'm saying? So what she was saying to me is that I could phone up, and if I had all the names, then she could just send me like the passes, and I guess we could distribute them. So that's what we're doing is trying to get a list of people that want to go, a list of people, and then figure out sort of how we get there and how we sort of carve it. So right now we've got 1, 2, 3. Well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 right now so far.
So probably by probably Tuesday the latest, I think we're looking at the deadline. Whoever's in by Tuesday, then that's what we're going to.
And then that's not to say that you cannot find your way.
Find your way if you want to find your way. The information will be in the.
What I'm saying to you guys is that, and technically, as I said, when me and my boy would go through there, because he's lived there, he never pays for it. I think he would get a yearly pass. Yearly passes are $30. It's nothing, but because he lived there, I think he was doing it for a few years, but now he doesn't even pay for the pass. He just goes in there, his dirt bike, and comes out. But I'm not into playing games with not being there with a pass. So that's where I'm at. So it's up to you how you guys want to do that, but just be forewarned that I'm not looking to be having any arguments with any people on the path out there about not having a pass or some nonsense, especially if it's $6. So.
Any other questions, comments before we close out? Now, one other thing, we're I don't know what's going on with the damn printer. It's it's saying offline on my thing. We're gonna try to print out the immunization writs for everybody. So what we might do is we'll just list where you would put your appellation on it, and we'll just email it out, and then you bring it in, you print it yourself, bring it in, and we'll witness and seal it. Whether we do no on my thing it's showing offline. I don't know why. I don't know.
You should check in the heading to make sure that you're on the right computer.
Yeah, I know where I'm at. Printed before. So I don't know what's going on with it. So yeah, so we'll send it out. Say it again? Yeah. All right, Morris, Islam.
Islam. I use this for algebra. I use it like for the exponents and stuff, but it's, right? Yeah. I go back to like ball division.
Islam chat, Morris. Peace and love. Yeah, we already did that. Shut the printer off, plugged it out. We did all that stuff already. I don't know what's going on. Go ahead, Mar. Go, bro. Father, I love two on the right.
Allah, my universe.
Allah, my universe. Father, God, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah, my protection, my guide, and my salvation. By night and by day, the Holy Prophet, Muhammad Ali, Islam. Islam, Morris.
Wanting to do all this trip now, wants to sign up, put their names down and things. Commitments to.
Islam, Morris. Please, Mark, please. Next week, you'll be up there next week? You know, I gotta come out. Oh, all right, cool. All right, Mark. Islam, Morris.